Good evening, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Happy Hump Day. Welcome to Wire to Wire Sports Podcast, episode 286. Goddamn, that's a lot. Notice a little difference today. Only the two handsome guys are here. The other guy's off playing somewhere. But, it's hot outside. It's going to be even hotter in here. So, men, grab your ladies. Anyway, I'm your host, Uncle Shally. To my left, my main man, as always, my Buckeye brother from another mother. On keep the show on the tracks tonight, as always, Mr. Cottrell Simpson. How are you, sir?
I'm feeling good, man. I'm feeling good. It's kind of crazy. We don't really get to do these two-man shows too often. With me and you, I think I can count on one hand how many we've done there. But I'm sure at some point Gene will probably pop in here and say hi with the mojito in his hand by the pool or whatever he's doing on his cruise. So I'm sure he's having a good time. We'll miss him, but we got a big time show here.
We do. This is a three-man show. I will say it. I would say on a side note, it's impressive that we've done less than probably 7 or 8 two-man shows, no matter what the combination is, since we've started. So
yep,
that's not dedication. I don't know what is. As Cottrell mentioned, Bahama Gene is on a boat somewhere, drinking his Bay Breeze, hopefully with a little umbrella in it, having fun. He's on his work vacation, and rightfully deserved. We're gonna do the show without him, but he picked a good week. I'll have to say he picked a good week to not be here. It's kind of like a weird. I want to say dead zone. It's a weird time where everything's kind of getting ready to ramp up and start, and but we're still gonna have fun with it. Gonna be more of a laid back show tonight. If you're in there listening, one thing we want to do, because we're probably gonna have time at the end. If you have questions about anything, it can be random as long as it's sports. Put them in the chat, and at the end of the show, we're gonna try to get back to them. So it can be about anything. Doesn't have to be what we're talking about tonight. Anything in sports, ask us, predictions, anything, anything we don't get to, we're going to try to get back to them. But like Cottrell said, we're going to start with Hotwire as always. NBA we got to talk about because the playing game's already started. There's 2 more tonight. We're going to recap the Masters, which what could have been, I'll say. What could have been. We're going to do some draft talk, NFL. And this is kind of one of the fun shows of the year because it's kind of the only really time we talk about it. But WrestleMania is this weekend, so we are going to dive into the WWE at the end of the show and definitely have some fun. So that being said, we got to get going. Cottrell, Hotwire is yours as always, sir. Take it away.
Yes, sir. And this week we got a little bit of a different kind of spin here to Hotwire. Normally you have like some crazy breaking news or big time trade or some things that ultimately happen throughout the week there. This week, just kind of like you mentioned with the theme of the show, kind of like a lull period. And I know this had been a story. This first topic here has been a story for the past couple of weeks here, on Twitter and things like that. But Diana Rossini has officially announced her resignation from The Athletic. This is at the same time that rumors are speculating of the relationship between her and New England Patriots head coach Mike Vrabel. After they were seen in, numerous photos together, holding hands and just hanging out together, poolside. So, again, I know we've pretty much shied away from this entire story. But now that she's officially resigned from her position, I felt like this was the perfect time to at least, just peek under the Band-Aid a bit and see, what some of the thoughts are. So, Bill, I'm sure you've kept up with this soap opera here. What are your thoughts on ultimately her resignation? And I guess, if you have any inputs on what you think happens moving forward here, I'd love to hear it.
I think peeking under the blanket's what got these two in trouble. But I will say this. Part of me does not care at all. And I mean that in not like a disrespectful way, But like, if these two are going to have an affair, they're going to have an affair. And I understand the repercussions of it because he's a head coach and, she is one of the lead reporters for The Athletic and she does work for the NFL Network. So I get that. So, but until you can show me where she is giving him some kind of information that he wouldn't have gotten regularly or something like that, like I don't know what the big deal is. Like I understand they're both public personalities, but I mean, how many athletes and coaches and I mean, we could sit here all night and name them who people have been caught cheating.
Yeah.
It's their private business. I could see. It just doesn't move the needle for me. I quite honestly, I'm kind of upset she gave up her job. If I'm being honest, to be a woman in that field, and she's been there for a long time, so she's not like one of the newer ones where the door has proverbially been, open and paved for the people before her to make it easier for them to climb the ranks. And not that it should be hard, but let's just all be honest about what that field looked like 20 years ago. So she's been there for a long time. She's been around for a long time. Everybody knows who she is. She's very respected. I'm upset unless some bombshell is going to come out of this investigation that, this internal investigation the Athletics doing. I'm upset that she quit. She should have kept her job. And then at that point, she said she quit because it's already gotten crazy out of hand. The pictures are out of context. That part I don't believe. They're bringing up, clips she's said before about like making fun of like boring marriages and like, so that doesn't look good. But unless this investigation is going to bring up something that she is, I don't want to say not embarrassed. I think she's embarrassed by this whole thing already. But unless it's going to be some breaking news, I don't know why she wouldn't have stayed and just been like, you're not, okay. If you want to say I'm having an affair with him, that's fine. But I haven't done anything professionally or, done anything conduct wise that you can fire me. And I don't know why she wouldn't stay.
So I think your original question about, I don't know what the Athletics, internal investigation will find. I think to me, like that is the biggest question mark here, right? Because I feel like if she's resigned now, the Athletic really has no reason to keep digging and, continue their investigation essentially. So she's no longer an employee there. It's not like they're going to be forced to, reveal their findings or anything like that. So I almost wonder, like, did she resign so then, the Athletic didn't have to dive into, what that relationship is or what kind of conduct had happened, not necessarily just between those two, but I think on the surface, right, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Like, obviously, the affair is one thing and, you never condone that, but just from like a business perspective, you essentially see people have affairs all the time and, keep their jobs and things like that. So, I 100% agree with you from that side of it, but I do think on the flip side of it though, where the waters get a little bit muddy for me is that she is someone who has AP Coach of the Year votes. She is someone who has the connections to these players where, let's not forget that just a couple weeks ago or, a month ago or so, she was one of the first ones that was reporting about AJ Brown's, potential interest in going over to New England. And so I do think it is one thing to get, scoops from coaches and have those relationships, things like that with coaches. But I think getting scoops the traditional way versus pillow talking with the guy who's in the room kind of making those decisions is a completely different ball game. Not saying that it's like the most egregious thing ever, but I do think like that side of it, because of her ability to have like these votes and her access to these players and these figureheads and things like that, like I do think that there needs to be some sort of common ground and some sort of, line in the sand essentially between those two relationships.
I don't disagree. I think the voting, I think, is an interesting point because, obviously, if he's in serious discussion for it, then I mean, obviously, you could obviously say her vote will be swayed.
And he
But
deserved it last year. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, he
correct,
100%.
correct.
You took a team that had the 4th overall pick to the Super Bowl, and essentially put them in a position to potentially win a Super Bowl. So he 100% deserved whatever votes that he got last year. But I'm just saying, in general, though, like that is a conflict of interest to me.
It is. It's just is it that serious though to where it's like, I mean, if we're being honest, like how many times is he going to be up for Coach of the Year? So it's like, again, I think it's a good point, and I definitely think it matters. The AJ stuff, like we don't know where she got that from. Like she could have
I
got that from
mean,
somebody in Philly. Like again, that's the part of it that I want to see. Like
yeah, for
if
sure.
there is stuff that's coming out that's like, okay, now like she's had privileged information and Rabel got that and nobody else. Okay, now we're on a completely different boat then, and
For
and, and
sure.
then it's a different story for me. Um, you know, I I think it. I don't want to say it's. I don't think it's weird. It doesn't surprise me at all, just because I feel like the way these things always go. I feel like she's taking the brunt of all this,
Oh,
and
for
like
sure.
nobody's saying a goddamn word about Mike Vrabel.
Well,
Like
did you see that the
nobody.
their VP, like of the Patriots, Elliot Wolf, had did like a press conference, and the only question they asked him was like, essentially, how involved he's been with the evaluation of these prospects. Like that was really it. Like they
So I
didn't even bring
mean,
it up. Like it's one. I think for me, of course, like you're not in these rooms beforehand. So like I don't know if like before everything started, they're like, hey, if you ask Diane a question here, you're not going to be invited back. Like that, because those kinds of things do happen. But on the flip side of it, I also think that if you are a journalist, that even if that does happen, it
you
almost
know
would be
damn
better
well they
for
ask
you.
anyway.
It better almost better for you to ask it anyway, and then they shut it
Correct.
down, and you're like, all right, well, they said I can't come back anymore, but that's my job. Like I'm here to ask the questions that
Yes.
people want the answers to. So like I feel like they just kind of really let them off the hook there. Like no one from the Patriots organization has had to even answer anything, even if the answer is no comment or we're looking into it internally or we're waiting to hear more information. Like no one has even given us that, just scraping the bottom of the barrel with answers there. So I think that's the part that's interesting, to me, because of course Vrabel is going to go scot free with this. I mean, let's be honest, he's a Super Bowl. He's a Super Bowl appearance already. He's a reigning coach of the year. Like nothing is going to happen to Mike Vrabel unless he does something that is quite literally against the law. And even still, like they might just ride through the suspension side of it and roll with it. So I'm
I
not
don't.
surprised from that side.
I don't think like anything. Like again, I don't think she. I don't think she should have quit her job. I don't think he should lose his job.
Me
But
either.
like
Me either.
even like just the public backlash of it is like she's the only one that did anything wrong in this situation. Like she's getting smashed every day, like on
Quite the
social
term to
media.
use, but okay.
I haven't seen one thing about Mike Vrabel, not one. And like, trust me, he's married, so I'm sure he's getting his fair share of shit at home. Like, but she is too. So it's
For
like
sure.
I just find it weird. Everybody's interested in what she wants to say and like what's going to happen to her, but it's like, yeah, well, Mike Vrabel's married too. Like he was there too, and like no, like and like you said, we've all listened to those press conferences before where they come out and like, don't say this, this, and this, and then you have 8 reporters that try to ask the question 8 different ways to
Yep.
word it 8 different ways to get somebody to comment. And like you said, like Mike Vrabel comes in like, oh, what about the prospect? Like nobody had any balls in that room. Like, yo, like what's going on, dude? Like nobody. That part of it's a cop out to me.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I truly feel like this is like the soap opera story right now in the NFL because, like, and I get it in a sense that it's really not like sports story in the sense of like you turn on Sports Center, this should be like the lead story or anything like that. But it feels like outside of just everyday, kind of casual sports fans there that no one is really picking up this story. And again, I fully understand that we want more of the details of the situation and things like that. But like I'm quite surprised that literally it feels like everyone is just blatantly ignoring the story here. Because even if it is just as simple as I kind of wonder what's going through Mike Vrabel's head right now because he's supposed to be focused on the draft, but he has all of these distractions outside of it. Like I haven't even heard like that get slipped in the shows or anything. So I'm very curious of where this ultimately leads to, and will we ever ultimately see Mike Vrabel? Because again, we are so close to the draft, and I feel like since these pictures, like I haven't even. You said you haven't seen Mike Vrabel talked about. I haven't seen any pictures. I haven't
No.
seen him, scouting players. Like I haven't seen about him being in meetings with certain players. Not to say that he's not doing it, but it almost feels like he's completely off the grid right now, just waiting for everything to die down.
Yeah, it's like the Patriots like locked everything down, and like he's probably doing what he's supposed to be doing, but like there's no cameras, there's no reporters, there's nothing. Um, so I find that part of it all very weird.
For sure. And I mean, I know we will, I'm sure we'll get back to this as we get more details and as more things emerge there. But again, I just wanted to bring that topic up because I feel like obviously it's not a fun thing to talk about, but I do think this is it's a fun topic to just kind of hear the different perspectives and different sides of things there. Cause we're on the same side of, in the sense of, don't think she should necessarily resign there, but do think, as a whole, there should be a lot more clarity about that relationship and ultimately just waiting to hear, when the truth ultimately comes out there. But anything else on that top before we move on to some UFC here?
No, I think we've covered it all. Like I said, I think once everything comes out, we'll probably revisit it, and then it could be interesting at that point.
No, for sure. And I just something that was a little bit less interesting here. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. This card actually produced outside of the Johnny Walker fight. But
I'm black.
with that said though, UFC 327, what's up, Alex? Um, did you get a chance to watch this card at all?
So I wasn't going to watch it. All right. I didn't think it was that great of a card. I had other stuff going on. And then the main event happened. And then a bunch of people texted me and were like, yo, did you just watch what just happened? And I was like, no. I'm like, Christ. So then, like, now I got to like go in and go through it and watch it. I've never seen anything like that before. And I've never heard like somebody like openly admit it, which was just wild to me. Like I can't think of anything like that ever happened in the UFC where somebody just like if he's really that hurt like you think he is, like take the win and get the hell out of there before you get hurt. Like
Yep.
it's like I felt sorry for him. Bro, you're in the fight game, dude. The only thing that matters is if you win or lose. And you got this dude hobbling in front of you, and you're like, oh, I felt bad for him. And then you get dropped. Like it is mind-boggling. And again, we talk about how kind of unorthodox Yuri is, and he's kind of all over the place anyway. Like, dude, like where I can't fathom where his head's at, sitting there like in the middle of this fight and processing that, and then still getting knocked out.
It's definitely wild. And I think the crazier part of it for me is that I don't even necessarily know if I believe Yuri. And you know that Yuri's my guy. Like I will ride with Yuri, till the wheels fall off. But with that being said, though, you can't tell me that you felt mercy and like you felt bad. And then I also get to continue watching that once you realize that his leg has the damage that it does, you spaz like 7 or 8 leg kicks to said leg. Like for me, I feel like you knew it was that bad. You were trying to chop him down. You didn't think that he would have as much power because he can't push off of one of his legs, and you ultimately ended up getting caught, and it cost you the title. And I think that the crazier part about it too is the fact that that was a situation where, and that was the kind of injury to where if you escape that round, if he goes back to his corner, there is absolutely no way they let him keep fighting on that leg there. Because it sounds like the ACL is completely torn there. And it sounds like there's a lot of like knee ligament damage, ultimately in there. So I feel like, you sit him down in the corner and, that swelling starts to pick up there, and the adrenaline is starting to boil down, like cool down a bit there. I don't know if he could continue in that fight, especially the way that things were going there with Yuri sending off as many leg kicks as he was. So I think that Yuri was, in a sense, I think he was trying to be commendable because he did do the point down, like, hey, like I want to fight like right here, right now. Like, we can just scrap basically and go at it that way. But I also feel like that he, in his mind, he didn't think that Carlos had enough in him to still get the win with the injury that he had. Like, I believe that way more than I think that, he was just this, you know, merciful fighter and he didn't want to hurt Carlos, because if that was the case, you wouldn't have been sending as many leg kicks as you were, and you wouldn't have been trying to close the distance and still, firing off shots there, especially after Carlos never engaged with you when he did the point down. Like, he's like, I'm fighting this like it's a normal fight still. Get the hell away from me. Like, we're doing this.
Yeah, you bring up a lot of good points, and and again with Yuri, it's somewhat difficult sometimes to know what to believe, what not to believe, because the guy is kind of all over the place. He definitely lives to the beat of his own drummer type guy. But if you believe him, there's still no excuse. Like that. That's where I land. If you believe every word he said, there's still no excuse. You got to go in and, like you said, one of two things: you either got to finish the fight yourself, or you're at least not letting yourself get caught. Because, like you said, if they do call the doctor in between rounds, with the way they do those tests now, they can pretty much tell right away if your ACL is torn, like all that stuff. They're not going to let them fight. So you have to do one of two things. You either got to finish them or just stay the hell out of the way, like you said, to your point. You can't get knocked out. Like, I don't understand what was going through his head. I don't. Like, I really wish like there was a way to read people's minds at like that exact moment. And you got to give him credit, man. Standing there on, for lack of a better term, one leg, still taking the shots, and then be like, I'm going to finish the fight. Finish the fight, gets the win. Probably going to be out for over a year now, like you said, which sucks. And that puts a year in a weird spot. Like, he just takes an L, and the guy he just lost to is going to be out for a year. That's a weird spot for that division to be in, and a weird spot for Dana. But one of just like, it's one of those things, like we talk about it all the time. Like, you start getting texts, you're like, that can't be real. And then like you turn it on, I went right to that part, and then watched it post fight, and I'm like, he really just said that. It's crazy. It's crazy. I can't recall anything like that ever in the UFC, to where they're saying it was like intentional, like mercy. Like, there's always the fights where guys try to fake guys out. We've had other fights where like guys got kicked in the balls and the ref didn't see it, and then like they struggle and try to hold on to they get their wits back about them, but like nothing like this. Just super weird.
No, for sure weird. And I think, weird is the perfect way to describe not just that fight, but really what happens next here, because it feels like Yuri has been in this championship picture for, 3 years now. And it almost feels like every fight that he's in is, seemingly for the belt. But you have the only guys to beat Yuri in the UFC is Carlos Ulberg, and then Alex Pereira twice, who is now a heavyweight. So it's like, yes, you did just lose the belt. You just lost the fight for the belt. But at the same time, like you could argue that of the light heavyweights, like you are the best one that's still in the division and healthy because no one else is beating you. So I'm very curious to see, where the UFC ultimately goes from here. I do think Paulo Costa winning his fight and looking as impressive as he did definitely helps Dana to make some decisions. Whether you go Paulo versus Magomed for the interim belt, or you want to do a little, round robin kind of tournament with Yuri, Magomed, Paulo, and then Khalil Roundtree, because those guys have been the top of the division there. Um, so you have some options. Light heavyweight has just been a lighter and a weaker division as of late. But yeah, I'm very curious to see what Dana decides to do, because if Allberg is out for the next year, you absolutely have to get an interim in there. But it's going to be weird throwing the guy who literally got knocked out with his last opportunity for the belt to just kind of get thrown into the interim title picture there.
And that's why I don't think he can, man. I think it's got to be, like you said, Monagov or Paulo Costa. And then if you want to fight Yuri, fight Roundtree, and the winner of that gets a shot. I mean, you should be able to have both those fights before he's probably back and ready to go anyway. I'd be okay with that, but I don't know how you get knocked out and still walk into an interim title belt match like that. That doesn't sit okay with me.
But the other part, though, that makes it interesting is that this was Paulo Costa's first fight at light heavyweight. So you go just one light heavyweight fight and then go right to the, interim title shot. So, I just think there's so many factors that play into it. And then I look at Roundtree, and it's like, yeah, he's 100%, deserving of being in that mix. But he also has a loss to Yuri that's happened within the last, year. So, I don't know. It's just that division as a whole is very, very weird right now, and the injury definitely makes it more complicated.
Say what it is. It stinks. It is not a good division right now. Like you said, Pereira went up to heavyweight. Izzy's done. Like the guys that have carried that division for the last 4 or 5 years, they're all gone. They're all gone.
For sure.
And we're left with what we're left with.
But that's really enough of that card. And I know you said you didn't watch it. Did you catch up with any of the other fights that happened on it? Because honestly, as a whole, the card was actually pretty good besides the Dominic Reyes and Johnny Walker fight.
After I didn't watch the Dominic Reyes fight because, to your point, when I looked at the card to see who won, then at that point, I saw that it was, a decision 5 or went the whole distance. I'm like, it's probably a snooze fest. I did watch the Paulo Costa fight. I rewinded back through the title fight and watched that. And yeah, he looked good. I mean, we made a joke last week about how he routinely doesn't show up, when the lights are the brightest. But he definitely did Saturday. He looked good.
He did. I'm very curious to see where he ultimately goes from here. The Josh Hokett and Curtis Blades fight was absolutely phenomenal as well. If you haven't seen it, I would 100% go back and watch it. It is, and I don't have a comprehensive list, right? But it is 100% without a doubt in my top 10 UFC fights I've ever seen. It was that good. You got two heavyweights that are just throwing haymakers for 3 rounds, all 15 minutes. You're wondering how they're still standing. It was that good to me. Definitely a top 5 heavyweight fight of all time. But again, for me, without just actually putting the pen to paper, I think it's a top 10 fight in UFC history. That's how good it was. And it's interesting too, because Hokett ultimately came out with the win there. And, they announced it during the stream that he's going to now face Derek Lewis on the White House card. So that's going to be a fun fight. And I will tell you this, he will not be able to stand toe-to-toe with Derek Lewis how he did with Curtis Blades, if that's his game plan, moving forward there. But that White House card will be here before you know it.
I just don't. Derek Lewis wins 1 fight, loses 2, and still just ends up on all these cards somehow. I don't understand.
That's what happens when you're a fan favorite.
I guess, man. That guy's had so many opportunities, and I like him. So I'm not bitching, but he's had so many opportunities to get it done and has it, and it's they just keep feeding him. They just keep feeding him. It's wild. I think the White House thing is going to be an absolute travesty, but that's the other. We'll talk about that as it gets closer. I still don't know how it's going to work, but whatever.
It's going to be on the lawn.
I guess.
I don't know how you're going to have a fight on the lawn. It's, fighter conditioning. It's going to be hot. Like, I don't know how that works, but time will tell.
Time will tell. They did just announce too that I think either July or August, UFC's coming back to Philly, so that's exciting.
Okay.
They haven't been here for a pay-per-view card in a long time, so that's going to be fun. That's it for UFC, though, I think.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then I just wanted to move on to our last topic here. We did have the WNBA draft happen this past week, and wanted to just get your thoughts on some of the things that we saw. So ultimately, AZ Fudd from UConn went number 1, joining her former teammate and current girlfriend Paige Beckers on Dallas Wings. You had Olivia Miles going to the Lynx at 2 overall. Other just kind of notable names here. Lauren Betts from UCLA went 4 to the Washington Mystics. Flau'jae Johnson from LSU went to the Valkyrie originally, but then has been traded to the Seattle Storm. And then the last one from the first round that I think is like a notable name there is Raven Johnson from South Carolina, who a lot of people thought could potentially be a top 5 pick. Ends up sliding all the way down to 10 and is going to an Indiana Fever team where, obviously they don't need a point guard to run their offense, but you're getting a true lockdown defender in Raven with, decent size for his guard position. So very, very sneaky good pickup for them, in my opinion. But don't know if you had a chance to watch the draft, but I do think it was more of a top heavy draft this year as opposed to a deep class. But just give me any thoughts or reactions that you had to the draft ultimately happening.
I think Fudd going number 1 was not surprising. They have a great 1-2 combo there in Dallas now, and that team's going to get a lot better real fast. I guess the dynamic between her and Paige, I guess, needs to stay the same, because if not, that could get interesting. But we just talked about the first thing. I mean, what could go wrong? You have, girlfriends on the same team if they break up. But to your point with the Fever pick, I think it's a great pick for them. I think what they're really doing, they're adding good depth to that team now. Like that, like it's not going to be like, hey, the first wave with Caitlin and all them. Like they're going to be more of a complete team now. You give Caitlin a breather and bring her in, like you said, she's going to play lockdown defense. You play her situationally at the end of games next to Caitlin if you have to. It's going to be. I think it's a really sneaky good pick. I think Miles. I think she has a chance to be the best player in this draft. We'll see what happens. Situation. The Lynx always seem to figure it out, and they always seem to, kind of be there at the end. So, going to one of the more successful organizations in the WNBA. Like you said, this draft is a little top heavy and not quite the star power we've had in the last couple of years, or probably what we're expecting next year. But I think there's a lot of good pieces for a lot of teams in here. And again, I think it's good for Dallas, to have 2 kind of superstars now, to really start growing that team with it being a newer team and that market. And I think it's going to be a really interesting year for the WNBA. I really do. I think the parity is finally going to be there, and I don't think you're going to have 4 really good teams, 2 other teams are going to make the playoffs, and then kind of 4 teams that are just absolutely terrible. You might have Chicago based upon what they just did, but I think it's going to be a more evenly played season this year. I think there's going to be a lot of teams that are in the fight for it at the end, especially to get into the playoffs.
I agree. And Jory, I do see your comment here. You said Oka to the dream is interesting there. I 100% agree with me. I 100% agree with you. I think that with what the Dream have right now, as far as bigs, you would imagine that someone has to be leaving that room. I know Brittany Griner is signed elsewhere already, but you still have Nas Hillman. Obviously, you have Angel Reese now. You have Olcott now being there. I mean, I think that that's a very crowded room. So I was very curious to see them make that pick there. But I mean, honestly, you can never have too much size there, especially in this league there. So I'm sure it'll work out well for them. The other one thing that I wanted to mention though is the fact that UCLA had 6 players drafted within the first 2 rounds. They had 5 women go in the first round there. So I think that's absolutely incredible. Normally you're used to seeing like those kind of numbers from your, UConns or your South Carolinas or Tennessees, in years past there. But UCLA coming out and actually getting 5 drafted in the first round there is absolutely incredible to me. Of course, headline from Lauren Betts there. But I think that Kiki Rice is going to have plenty of opportunity to be a superstar in Toronto and essentially be the face of that franchise. Completely new team, and you're giving a girl the keys who was the most outstanding player from the Big Ten tournament, and so she clearly has a ton of talent. So very curious to see how good these new expansion teams are this first year. But to your point, I 100% believe that there'll be a lot more parity this year as opposed to years past there. And the Lynx getting a true point guard is going to be big for them. Obviously, you're going to have some people returning this year from injury. Caitlin's going to be back healthy this year, and things like that. So I think this is definitely going to be a great year for the W. And it's also been cool to see some of these max contracts getting announced, like Asia Wilson signing a $5 million deal to go back to Vegas, or Kelsey Plum signed a $1 million deal, $999,000 deal with the Sparks to come back there. So seeing a lot of people just make a lot of money now with their new CBA agreement, it's pretty cool to see.
As they should. And like I said, I think the better the league gets, the better it is for everybody. It's gonna help all those teams with their fans that can stay in until the end and have a shot to make the playoffs. It's going to make for better TV. You don't have to constantly throw, the aces on with Asia or Caitlin Clark and with Indiana. I think you'll probably see Dallas a lot on TV this year. You're still going to have New York, Indiana, and Vegas and all them. But the more household names you can make for that league, the better that league's going to be. Everybody knows Caitlin, everybody knows Asia, but everybody else that's in that tier of superstars, you can get them on TV and get them, little girls to buy their posters and everything else. That is what the WNBA needs. And the sooner they do that, and the sooner all these other teams get better and better, that league will take off. So this will be the first year of any. Like I said, everybody's going to get their money now, which is good. Long overdue, and they're gonna get their day now. So it's what they make of it now. There's really no excuses anymore. They got a great TV deal. They got still a handful of superstars that they can absolutely build around for a league. They just gotta get it done now.
What's up, Saigan? Appreciate you commenting and tapping in with the show here. But the one thing that I did want to also just say here, I'm very curious to see. Obviously, I know a lot of them played in Unrivaled, but now that they are signing these deals, they shouldn't have to go overseas to play anymore. I mean, if they want to, of course, I know some of them enjoy that lifestyle of, being over in Europe. It is a way to see the world and things like that and, make money on the side there. But now you don't necessarily have to go over and do that. So I'm going to be curious to see if we get, moving forward here, either fresher legs or potentially like less injury. Like, I'm curious to see how this new, like the new pay structure is ultimately going to, if it's going to affect any of the play style or just like injuries and things like that with the league moving forward here.
I think with the extra money, I think it's gonna be able to keep a lot of them home. It's gonna be able to keep a lot of the big names home. I think some of these contracts are probably going to have language in it that they're probably not allowed to go play. Because it's a bigger investment now. And you take somebody, Kelsey Plum's making $1 million a year. I'm sure she has endorsements. She's going to make a couple $1 million a year. Like you said, she can rest now. She's going to have to go play in Europe for another 3 months. and really get no downtime. We all know about the Brittany Griner debacle when that happened. I think between the new TV deal and the new opportunities for these women to market themselves and get more endorsements and stuff like that, and then with the higher contracts, I really think when the season's over, they should be able to stay home and really kind of relax, like you said, actually have an off season, properly heal from injuries, not have dead legs because their season's really 9.5 months long by the time they're done in Europe. So I hope all those things happen.
For sure. And but that is it for Hotwire. But kind of wanted to end off with the WNBA because you might as well just stay on the hardwood because the NBA playoffs are about to be in full swing here. And I don't know if you got a chance to actually watch the playing games last night. I caught them late. I watched like the fourth quarter and overtime of the Hornets and Miami Heat game, and then obviously got to see the Suns and Trailblazers game there. Playing games have been absolutely phenomenal, and as much hate as I want to give Adam Silver for a lot of the things that he's done with the league, this play-in was an excellent idea, especially with this being the product that we're getting out there on the floor, because that Miami and Charlotte game was absolutely incredible from what I saw there.
So the last quarter and a half of that and then overtime. So that game was crazy. Game was wild. There's the ball trip. Well, I'm sure we'll get into that in a second. If it was a trip, wasn't a trip.
Definitely a trip.
Definitely a trip. But didn't get to see much of the second game. Saw a bunch of highlights of it this morning. I think what Adam Silver kind of, I don't want to say lucked out because I feel like this was always the vision for it. Like you have Miami and Charlotte in a game this year where, both teams, had winning records. They were solid teams. We're not looking at a 9 and 10 seed this year where they're, 35 and 55, and you're like, we're gonna have a teammate to playoffs. It's like 15 games under 500. We're not getting that this year. All the teams that are kind of close. Actually, I don't think anybody's under 500 this year. That's in it. So, and again, what we just talked about the WNBA. Charlotte's been a young team that's been kind of up and coming and kind of tripping over themselves the last couple of years, and this year they finally figured it out. Miami's a veteran team.
Amazon, she said Amazon ticked me off so bad. Yeah, that technical difficulties could not have happened at a worse time because literally you get the Hornets are up. And then next thing you know, Tyler Hero's at the free throw line and Miami's up. It's like, what the hell happened in the time that we were gone?
I did not have that problem.
You were a fortunate one then.
But it was a great game. Great game. So now we'll have, I think Charlotte plays the loser of the Sixers.
Correct.
Or Magic game, which tips off in a couple minutes here. And then Golden State's got the Clippers tonight, I believe. That's the other game.
Yep.
That'll be interesting. But
Steph's on a minister restriction, so I don't have high hopes for that Warriors team there. And the Clippers is as quiet as it's kept. Ty Lue came out after they started 6-21. He said, my goal is to have us go 35-20 the rest of the way. And damn it, he won, I think it was 36 games total. So I think that the Clippers they're going to be a team to, I don't want to say watch out for, because I do think, best case scenario for them is that they ultimately get the AC and they got to go up against the Thunder, who are playing out of their minds. But yeah. I just think that this isn't your typical 8 seed, because at a 35-20 pace there, they probably would have been right in the mix for a 4 or 5 seed had they started the season out that way, as opposed to close the season that way. Charlotte
beats Detroit in 6. Is the first round, are they all 7 games now?
Yes.
Okay. So remember there was 3, then 5, then 7, then the first round was 5, and everything else is 7. Everything's 7 now?
Everything's 7.
I will tell you this. Charlotte is a team that I think matches up well to give Detroit problems. With as athletic as they are and the way they like to run and the pace of the game. That will be a fun series to watch for sure.
Not gonna
But
lie to you, we might not even get there because I think that any of the three teams, I think the Magic can give Detroit problems. I think the Sixers can give Detroit problems, and I think the Hornets can as well. I've been saying it, and I've made no bones about it that I think that that Pistons team still lacks a true number two scoring option. And I get it. Jalen Duren has been incredible this year for them. And, they stayed afloat even after Cade's injury and, give them a ton of credit and all the credit in the world for doing so. But for me, I think the playoffs is just a completely different animal. And, teams are going to game plan to make sure that Cade isn't the one that kills them. Because if Cade's out there and he gets you, let's say triple double, like a 15, 10 and 10 night, like the opposing team's probably going to live with that because that means the Pistons probably scored under 100 points. So
true.
I just think the Pistons are still love what they're doing, love where their trajectory is ultimately led to, but I just don't see it with that Pistons team. I just don't.
You know who they got over there. Don't sleep on them. Don't make Gene Sky get up in somebody's grill and start putting up 18 points a night in the playoffs.
Who are you
Toby will
talking
do
about?
it.
Oh, brother.
Toby's gonna get hot. Watch. No, but so we have the playing games tonight, and then the other two will be tomorrow and Friday, and the regular series all starts Saturday and Sunday. Correct.
Correct.
All right.
So I was going to ask you just real quick winners of Sixers Magic. Who you got tonight?
I'd feel, my love hate affair with JoJo, but I'd feel better if he was playing. But I still think the Sixers pull it out at home. I think that place will be crazy tonight. I think Maxey goes off. I think it's a real tight game. It might even be Miami Charlotte-esque, but I think the Sixers pull it off.
I agree. Actually, I got the Sixers winning it as well, and very curious about the matchup. I know you guys have no hopes for the Celtics Sixers matchup, but I'm would love to see it and see how they game plan for Joel and things like that. So that's awesome. What I have happening there, the Sixers get the 7th seed. Who do you think wins the other one? Clippers Warriors.
Clippers, unfortunately. I mean, I don't want to say unfortunately, but I think if Steph was 100% healthy and Golden State was kind of doing Golden State things, I think they'd have a shot. But they're banged up, like you already said. He's on a minutes restriction. I don't know if they go into LA and win that game.
Agreed. I got the Clippers winning that one as well there. And then who you got with Magic Hornets to ultimately get the 8th seed, and then on the west side, Suns and Clippers.
I'll take the Clippers in the West because, like you said, I think they've been playing great. They just had a horrible start to the season. If they played that way all year, like you said, I think they're a mid-pack team in the West, especially when they're healthy. I think Charlotte gets it done. I think Charlotte's just that team that I think they're kind of feeling it right now, and Orlando does just go. I've watched them a couple times this year, like randomly when I've been out, and they go through these funks, man, where they're just they have no flow. They don't play defense particularly well. I think Charlotte's that young, just fast, going to go out and leave it on the court type team. And I think Charlotte pulls it off.
I'm with you on both of those games as well. I like the Hornets to get the 8th seed and give Detroit everything that they've asked for and then some. And then on the flip side, I do like the Clippers there as well. Again, I think that they are playing a lot better than where they're at right now, and gotta give them credit for that. With that said, though, how do you want to do the rest of the NBA discussions here and talking about the playoffs? You want to like give a not necessarily like a full breakdown, but like just say who we got in how many games or
Yeah,
what's
I think a lot of the first round ones are kind of straightforward in my opinion. So I think we break them down a little bit. We don't have to go into great detail, but at least give our predictions for everyone.
Okay, you want to start in East or West?
Let's go East.
All right, so let's go with the two that we know first, and then we'll kind of go off of, the what
We'll
if
go off our
scenarios
hypotheticals
there.
after that.
Yep. So Cavs Raptors is the 4. Well, actually, no. Let's start with Knicks Hawks. That's the 3-6 matchup.
I think the Knicks will advance. I think the Knicks pull it off. I think Atlanta gives them everything they want and then some, though.
I agree. I think the Hawks that would be something to say. I know what playoff Jalen Brunson can do, but the Hawks might have the best player in the series in Jalen Johnson. Like if Jalen is playing the way that he's capable of playing, I mean, I think he could be a walk-in, 28-point triple double kind of guy in this series, and kind of will that Hawks team. I do think they have the better coach as well. Love Quinn Snyder as the Hawks coach, and Nikhil Alexander Walker has been incredible so far throughout the year. So I'm rolling with the Knicks here, but I might go Knicks in 7. Like I think this is a series.
Agree. I 100% agree. I think it's Knicks in 7, and I think my biggest gripe with the Knicks, as it always is, to your point, I know what I'm going to get from Jalen Brunson. I know there's no way he doesn't show up. I know how tough he plays and how hard he plays. I don't know what I'm getting from everybody else around him. Cat is a serial guy that doesn't show up when it matters. Not overly tough. Doesn't play with a lot of toughness. Bridges will be there, but it's the surrounding cast in New York is what I think worries me a little bit. And to your point, I think Atlanta has that guy now that can come in Jalen Johnson and say, you know what, Jalen's going to do his thing, but Brunson's going to do his thing, but I'm going to do my thing too. And if those two guys are a wash, then it gets real interesting to me, like you said, because then you take the other 4 in the bench, you take coaching. I'm a huge Quinn Snyder fan, always have been, just like you. I think that is a absolute drag them out, beat them out series.
Agreed. So yeah, we got the Knicks advancing then in 7 here. Next series on the East, you got the Cleveland Cavaliers against the Toronto Raptors. And I said it last week, say it again this week. I am thanking all of the lucky stars out there that we get to see the Toronto Raptors, because I think honestly, of all of the 9 teams, now the Heat have been eliminated, of all of the 9 teams left, the Raptors are probably, I think, the easiest team to match up with for any of the remaining teams there. I know they're the 5 seed. I know they've had a season that's been pretty solid there, but especially with the news of Emmanuel Quickley's injury, there's nobody really on that Raptors team that scares you, because it's like they're rolling out Brandon Ingram and RJ Barrett, which again, no disrespect to them. They've had a good season, but I don't really see much happening from that Raptors team there. And I think we got the best draw of any team in the East.
I think you got a very favorable draw. You're going to have a very light travel schedule as well. I mean, Cleveland, Toronto can't be more than probably a half hour in a plane. I think it's a good matchup for you guys as well. Toronto does play well at home. I think they'll go up there and they'll at least win, maybe a game or two. I feel like I'm going to take Cleveland in 6, but I don't think it's that stressful of a series, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. No, it definitely makes sense there. I got the Cavs in 5. I think they win both their games at home. I do think the Raptors ultimately will win game 3. I think we steal game 4, and then we come back home and take care of business. So you get out in 5, you hopefully get to rest, and you're hoping that the Pistons are in for a dog fight against whoever they're playing as the 8th seed there. But I think this is a good matchup for us, though. I'm very satisfied with what I'm seeing here. And the cool thing too is that this is a win-win for me, because obviously I want to beat the Raptors. I want to advance the playoffs. But if somehow that does not happen, I know moving forward who my guys are, who my guys aren't. I know who I can trust and who I can't trust. And I know I'm not. This isn't me just pushing my chips all in on James Harden. But everyone healthy as you're going to be 82 games into the season. So I know we're going up against a team that is inferior talent wise. So I know what this matchup should look like. But
Joy's got Hawks in 6. I will say this, man. I know a lot of people that like the Hawks in that series. A lot of people.
All right, now you want to do Celtics Sixers because that's who we both said we thought were winning.
That's easy. Go ahead.
I would have Boston in 5.
Same.
Think that Celtics win the first 2 pretty easily. Similar to the Cavs series, though, I do think Philly would probably win that first game back at home, back at still Wells Fargo.
Nah, it's like Xfinity Mobile, some shit now.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
Can't even keep up with it. It's just changing back to the FU Center. That was the best.
So I do think, Philly will win their game back at home and then, lose game 4 and ultimately lose game 5. But I do think this is a competitive 5-game series.
It'll be competitive in the fact that like we're rivals and we've played so much in the playoffs, and I think there's a lot of general or legit like distaste for each other, but I think Boston's just too good. JoJo is not going to be, even if he does play, he's not going to be in great shape. And I think Tatum and Brown and they're just too much. They're too much for especially what we want to do defensively. And I think they'll create havoc on the other end of the floor for us as well. They're going to try to take Maxey away, and if they do, then I'm not putting my chips in the Paul George pile. So no thanks.
All right, and the last one would be let's say Hornets versus Pistons, but if we do get well, actually, we should have a better idea by the end of the show. So let's just go off of Pistons, Hornets, and I'm curious to see where your head's at.
I think this is a great series. I really do. I'm going to lean. The only thing I agree with your point earlier, and all kidding aside, I wasn't being serious about Toby, but I do think that Detroit team's a little tougher than I think people give them credit for. Especially, they could have easily folded when Cade got hurt, and tumbled down the standings, and they didn't. I think a lot of guys got a bunch of extra minutes, and I think that team believes in each other. They trust each other, and I think that's a big deal come playoff time. I think they've played too hard and worked too hard to still keep that number 1 seed, and through Cade's injury. I think 7 games, though. I think Charlotte, again, I think like the Knicks and Hawks series, I think Charlotte's going to come in with a chip on their shoulder, nothing to lose whatsoever. And I think they're going to play free, and that's dangerous in the playoffs sometimes when you have a team that believes in themselves but really believes, like, kind of like you said, like, we're going to go out and we're going to find out what we got, what we don't got, and we're all cool with that. And I think Charlotte can play that way. But I think Detroit wins in 7. But I think it's a banger of a series.
I got Hornets in 7.
Ooh. Go to Detroit, win game 7, you're gonna break Toby's heart.
The funny thing about that too is that, like I told you guys, I would much rather face the Pistons than face the Hornets, and that might sound crazy to a lot, but I'm not. There's no fear in my heart of the Detroit Pistons led by JB Bickerstaff, like in their roster as currently constructed. I think JB is a great coach, and he's one of those guys that gets the most out of your team during the regular season. But I do think come playoff time, there's a lot left to be desired as far as some of the decision making that happens there. So I got Hornets in 7 though. But let's go over to the West. I think these are going to be
the big boys,
a little bit more cut and dry. So we'll start out with the number 2 seed, San Antonio Spurs, going to be facing the Portland Trailblazers back in the playoffs.
hell of a road for them when you really consider, where they were a couple of years ago and the whole Dame Lillard thing. And they're like, we're just going to keep accumulating all these young kids, and we'll see what happens. Back in the playoffs, good for them. Um, I don't know if they win a game though.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
Portland's a tough place to play. It's a great home court advantage for a team. Um, I think San Antonio is just a terrible matchup for them. I'll give Portland some love and say they win one of their games at home, but I got San Antonio in 5.
Spurs in 4. I'm with you. I think it's a bad matchup. You look at what the Blazers do well. You look at what the Spurs do well. You look at how the Spurs are playing right now. I just don't see the magic happening. I think the best thing that can happen for the Blazers is that Wemby is still 50-50 as far as his health goes there. Obviously, he played a couple nights ago to make sure that he got to the 65 game requirement for like all the offseason, end of season awards, I should say. But he's obviously been battling through an injury there. So the fact that he's not 100%, that should give the Blazers some hope. But again, I just think this Spurs team is way too talented and way too good defensively um, to lose a game in this series. But you got to tip your hat to Portland because you mentioned the situation of where they were at as far as rebuilding as far when Dame left originally. Now that Dame is back though, let's not forget that this is a team who is not being coached by their actual head coach right now. Like their actual head coach is still awaiting trial for his part in the mob mafia poker game. So like I think that alone should show you the resilience of that Portland group there. And nobody expect them to be here. Like before the season, if you said name me the 8 teams that are going to be in the playoffs on the Western Conference, no one in their right mind would have said the Portland Trailblazers are going to be a playoff team this year. And so I think you give a ton of credit to them. Makes me interested to see what they're going to be next year when they can add a Damian Lillard and potentially maybe spend some money in free agency. So, and even if Dame only comes back to being, 75% of what he was, I think that's still a great addition to a team that's 7th seed now. So give Portland a ton of credit, but I just don't think this isn't the matchup, and they're also just way ahead of schedule here too.
I agree.
Next matchup, you got 3-6 matchup between the Denver Nuggets and the Minnesota Timberwolves. And for me, I think that this matchup is going to be very contingent of how healthy Anthony Edwards is. I think regardless of if he's playing, that I still have the Denver Nuggets to win the series, but I think his health will determine how many games. If Ant can't go a couple of games, I think Denver makes very quick work of the Timberwolves. I could see it being over in 4 or 5. Ant does play. Give him, all the respect in the world. I think he's good for 2 games, but I would have, Nuggets in 6 there. But I don't see the Timberwolves being able to slow down this Nuggets team in a 7-game series.
I agree. I don't think it matters if he plays or if he doesn't. I think Denver's coming out one way or the other. Kind of like you said, it's going to be a matter of how much of an easy road it's going to be for Denver. Um, if he does play, I mean, I don't think either one of us think he's 100% if he does. But like you said, I mean, he is a gamer too. So I mean, I don't think he's going to go out or he's not going to try to at least show up and go. I just don't know what you're getting out of him. And without him in a full 100%, they struggle down the stretch as well. I think Denver's just way too seasoned, way too polished. I'll go Denver in 5.
Right. And then next matchup would be the Los Angeles Lakers versus the Houston Rockets. Again, another series where injuries are going to loom large. Apparently, Luca's being reevaluated now. Don't have a bona fide timetable of when he'll be back. It's almost all but certain that Austin Reeves is going to miss the entire first round of the playoffs there. Um, so, with that being said, giving the Lakers any shot to win this series?
The crazy thing is, if they're healthy, I think they win the series. Houston's got all kinds of weird kind of dysfunction stuff going on too, but they're healthy. No Austin Reeves is a big deal. Luka, I feel like, is in the same kind of category as Ant. I mean, you can put him on the court, but anybody who's ever popped a hamstring before, you are not a full go 3 weeks later, and especially up to an NBA playoff intensity type level. So even if Luka goes, Luka's not going to be 100%. That leaves LeBron and
Bronny.
I'll go Houston in 6. I think Houston's dysfunction lets the Lakers hang in that series a little bit, but the health, you can't have 2 of your 3 best players either not playing or severely injured and probably win a playoff series. So, LeBron's still probably better than Austin Reeves, but he's 2?
41, yeah.
41. I think that's just asking a lot.
I will tell you this, though, Bill. If that series goes to Game 6, the Lakers are winning the series. I will tell you that right now, because Game 6 wouldn't happen. This is how crazy spaced out their schedule is. Game 6 wouldn't be happening until May 1st. So that would give Luka, I still don't think Austin Rivers will be back, but that would give Luka at that point a whole month off. And I get it. The hamstring injury is still like, you're not going to be 100% even after a month off of your, hamstring with the grade 2 injury there. But at the same time, though, Luka's probably going to play then. And you throw Luka back in the mix there with LeBron in a gotta have it situation. I would take my chances with those two.
I don't disagree. I think it matters if he plays before that. Because even if he plays before that, even with the days in between games, he's not going to get that much better. If anything, he's going to get tired, and he might even pull it again. My only concern with Luka would be if he doesn't play, he comes back. What kind of conditioning does he have at that point?
Yeah.
But I understand what you're saying. I mean, there's enough. I think he'd be able to conserve enough energy to do his magic on the offensive side of the ball. When he's healthy, you're not getting much defensively anyways. I don't know what the difference would be at that point. So that part would be interesting if they take that strategy to sit him and not bring him back till Game 5 or 6.
I think that's the move. I would sit him until Game 5. You assess where you're at, because if you're down, if you make it to Game 5, it's 100% worth playing him, because either your season's on the line, or the only way you don't play him in Game 5, in my opinion, would be as if you're up 3-1 without him. And I don't see that happening. But that'd be the only scenario where I wouldn't play him.
Sure. That's a good point.
And I think that this series is ultimately going to come down to, and it sounds dumb, but it's going to come down to how much we're going to get out of 41-year-old LeBron, and how much can JJ outcoach Ime Udoka. JJ did an excellent job coaching schematically against the Rockets during the regular season, but now that you don't have 2 of your 3 best players there, what can you do? What are you going to scheme up? They had great schemes for Kevin Durant and kind of just slowing him down in that offense for Houston. Obviously, we know the struggles that Houston has without having a true point guard on that team. What can you do to make them uncomfortable enough to not just steal a game here or there, but legitimately give your team a shot and win? You win two games, like 2 of the first 3 games there, you're looking at being potentially in the driver's seat, because that's just buying Luka and AR more time and, potentially getting them back in the fold here. So ultimately for me, though, I do have Rockets in 5, but I do think that, the more this series gets drug out, I do think that's going to spell pleasantries for the Lakers.
Joy's comment makes me laugh. As a Lakers fan, to end the season, she doesn't want to. She doesn't want to suffer. She's pull the plug. I've had enough.
Well, regardless of regardless of if the Lakers win this series or not, if they win it next round, the Thunder will put them out of their misery rather quickly. So they won't have much to worry about there.
Well, I'll get you on record now. Lakers go out in the first round. Where does LeBron play next year?
Cleveland. Farewell tour in Cleveland. I've always thought that was going to be the case. I could see it happening in Golden State as well. But I ultimately think that the farewell tour is, because I think next year is going to be his last year, no matter what. Because at this point, you're
definitely not a Laker.
Definitely not a Laker. No, I don't see him being a Laker next year.
All righty. Well, who do we got left?
The last one would be the matchup of the Thunder versus the Clippers.
Thunder in 5. Wow.
I would also have Thunder in 5 versus the Clippers. Thunder sweep versus the Suns, if that's what happens, or the War, whoever else would be there.
They're just too good. They're too deep.
That's really it for NBA here.
That is NBA. Like I said, we're gonna like. I hate it, but for the sake of the show, it'll be good because we'll really be able to dive into these series next week because most of them are probably only going to have 1, maybe 2 games played because these guys get 3-4 days off between basketball games. It's a joke. But so next week, obviously, I think will be a very heavy NBA week along with football. So we'll be able to really have a better idea of really who's going where and how these series are going to start to look. So next week will be fun
for sure. Well,
on to the Masters we go, and what almost was. I will tell you this: when the day started with the people that were on that leaderboard, I thought there was going to be chaos. I thought there was going to be a bunch of lead changes, and I thought for sure there was a good shot we would get a playoff. There's so many good elite players within 3 or 4 shots of Rory. And then Rory falters right out of the gate, goes back, 2 or 3 shots. Justin Rose looks like he finally might get over the hump then. And goes to Amen corner and seen it too many times, man. Could not get through Amen corner. He kind of fell out of contention.
Scotty just goes through that spell where he pars every hole that he's can't sink a putt.
I will give Scotty credit for this. He grinds about as well as anybody. And I've said it before, to think that we were going to see a season like he had 2 years ago, it's just not. It's not likely, and I mean that in that, you look at the year Tiger had in 2001, which is what they were comparing it to. Those are just like such one-off things where guys were that just so dialed in and playing so well that it was hard to beat them. It's so hard to stay at that level. It's so hard for your swing to stay that completely in sync where you're striking the ball literally that perfect every time and you know exactly where it's going. You still need a little bit of luck. You still got to make putts that you probably shouldn't make. There's so much that goes into it to have a year like that. Scheffler's still absolutely one of the best golfers on the planet. Don't get me wrong. He might still be number one, but
he might be my guy still at 1. I promise you, before Sunday happened, like after we saw the score where everything was at, they're sitting on the couch, like watching all the pre-coverage and, just kind of waiting for, the top guys to tee off. And like, we're having the conversation and she asked me, she's like, who do you think is going to win it today? And I was like, honestly, I think these guys kept the door too open for Scotty. Like, I think Scotty's coming. He's about to come out here and he's going to go win it. When he went through that spell of, it was like 6 or 7 straight parred holes. And it wasn't like he didn't have opportunities. Like a couple of them, he did save par. Like, you give him credit for that. But a couple of them, he missed some putts that the way that he was playing for a guy that didn't bogey a hole on the weekend, like Saturday or Sunday, you would think that some of those, birdie attempts that he had would have dropped, but then they didn't. But then he still only ended up, one shot behind, ultimately finishes up in second there. I think one, that's a testament to how good that he is, but two, it's also a testament to really how perfect you got to be when he's playing like that, right? Like if you're Rory, like every time, especially late, because he had it rolling, the back nine there. So if you're Rory, you're hearing all these cheers because he's ahead of you. So you're hearing all the cheers happening, and you're looking at the leaderboard, and every time you're up, like the stroke just keeps going. His score just keeps going, lower and lower there. You got to feel that pressure there. And, to Rory's credit, I feel like a lot of times we talk about him being a choke artist, but down the stretch, he was dialed in, man. He hit some tough putts and, he had some great shots to put himself in position on the green to, have some birdie attempts there because obviously with the way Scotty was playing on the back nine, par wasn't going to cut it.
No, and I think the disappointing thing for Scotty is, and he mentioned it, I think there's certain holes on, the final round of the Masters, you're happy walking off the green with a par. But those two par fives, especially for a guy with his length, are so gettable. For him not to birdie either one of them and put, like you said, kind of put any even more sustained pressure on Rory, that kind of told the tale of Scotty. He actually drove the ball, for the most part, he drove the ball pretty well on
Except
Sunday.
on the par fives. He kept ending up in the trees from the par fives. But the crazy part about it though is that is as bad as some of those drives were on the par fives, him getting out of the trees and getting, either into the fairway or, onto the green, like he did a absolutely phenomenal job of putting himself in position to still, score on the hole, like to get birdies in the situation. So I think that's the even crazier part. Cause I think it's one thing if it's like, all right, I got a shot in the trees here, or I'm in the rough and I can't really put myself in a position. Let's just play it safe and we're going to play for par and just kind of move on from there. Like, I think that's one thing, but to get these excellent shots out and to have the opportunities for the birdie, like it was just, for me, it was so surprising to see because of how well he was playing as a whole on Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah. And again, he grinded well. He recovered well. He didn't really, to your point, he still had looks at birdies on a couple holes and, and he just couldn't take advantage, couldn't drain anything. Then he hits that really long putt on 17. And you're like, all right, kind of puts him in the two. Rory's still going to have to come backwards though. Yeah. To some degree, you really do have to give Rory credit. You look at Rory where he was on 8 or 9, he was down 2 or 3 at that point.
2, yeah. Cam Young. It's Cam Young was up, and then Justin Rose took the lead.
Yeah, Justin Rose took the lead, and like I said, Justin Rose went in the amen corner and fell apart. Which it's
how does that ball get in the water? Like, how do you let that happen?
Ball going in the water. He flubbed his chip on 12, on the par 3. Listen. I mean, those holes, beat you up, and they're famous for a reason. I really thought Rory was going to win when he got to 12. He climbed back within 1. Rose is going backwards. Young was still there. When he hit his tee shot on 12, the little par 3, hit an absolute perfect tee shot, made the birdie. I said, with where he got hot last year, which is where he was going to go. He was going to go play a par 5, the 4, and the other par 5. Where he had all those incredible shots last year. When he's driving the ball well, and he can hit his irons in, especially on that course, because like Scotty, they hit the ball so high, they have such an advantage. I kind of knew the writing was kind of on the wall, I would say, after he birdied 13. Scotty was a couple holes ahead. I was like, he couldn't get anything going. Justin Rose was falling apart. Cam Young was just struggling. The moment for Cam was kind of big, and I think he felt it. And again, hadn't made a great run, but he was just so far back, he couldn't get there. You're not going to go shoot 61 or 62 on that course on Sunday. You're just not going to do it.
Yeah.
And like I said, nobody can make a run. And then you got to give Rory credit. Birdie 13 and 15, and that was pretty much a wrap. I know Scheffler made that birdie putt on 17, but he had a 2-shot lead teeing off 18. The tee shot did make it interesting, but I know a lot of people are like, oh my. People are like, oh my god, like it's gonna be out of bounds. And I'm like, no, I'm like number 10's over there. You got to relax. Like unless he's like in a tree, like literally in a tree, and it didn't come down. Like he's probably gonna be okay. And I think it's just one of those things now, man. Like he finally got that monkey off his back last year, and he just has a perfect game to win there. He can hit high draws on demand, hits the ball a freaking mile, and when he putts, he's probably going to win at least another one.
So I'm curious. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it because I didn't know this until after the fact, and there was a lot of complaints about it. Apparently, Rory golfed a lot at Augusta, for 2 to 3 weeks at a time there. So he got to play the course a lot more than a lot of other people on the tour there. For you, do you think that's an unfair advantage for him, or are you of the mindset that, hey, these golfers are professionals? Like, if that's what you want to dedicate yourself to doing and you have the opportunity to, by all means, you should go for it? Or like, what's your thoughts on Rory playing there as much as he did? And then obviously, we saw it, from the first 2 days where he goes out and he's 12 under through the first 2 days. And you're like, what the hell is going on? Like, do I even need to watch Saturday and Sunday? Like, what's your thoughts on it?
So here's the thing, and a couple of guys have cleared this up. I was watching Kisner the day after as well. He said once you get your official invitation, no matter who you are, if you're in the tournament, you can call and show up there and play at any time. So a lot of those guys decide to play in tournaments, and make money for those couple weeks. Rory didn't. Rory took off, healed up a little bit because he had his bad back. And decided he played Augusta 4 times between the last time he played a tournament and when the Masters started. Any of them could have done that. Any of them. So that changed it a little bit for me because like I was thinking the same thing. I was like, oh, does he have like special privileges because he won last year? Like, and he's the only one that can do that. Like, and that's not the case. Once you get your official invitation and you're actually in the field, you can show up and have access to that course to play it whenever you want. They'll make accommodations. He decided to go do that. He decided with his back injury, he was to stay home. He's rest a little bit. And then he didn't play in those 2 big tournaments. And he just went to Augusta and practiced instead. So I don't think it's a big deal. Once I found out anybody has that, maybe that'll change how guys prep in the future. Because I know a lot of guys don't like playing the week before a major. They like to go home and kind of rest and regroup and then get ready. Maybe a lot of other guys will just start going and see what the course is like early now. But again, if you're the defending champion, I can't have a problem with you trying to over prepare to defend your title. If the other guys don't want to take advantage of the same opportunities that he has, I think that says more about them than it does about Rory.
For sure. I mean, I think that's an interesting point, though, too, about like, once you receive your official invite, that you can go there because really everybody that finished in the top 12 is already, guaranteed a spot for next year's Masters. So I'm curious if you can be strategic and say, hey, well, I'm for sure in next year's field. I'm going to golf, make sure I golf at Augusta, 3, 4, 5 times out, throughout the rest of the year. And then next year, like just, even if it's maybe, once a month or whatever the case may be, I'm curious to see moving forward, though, if that is something that becomes more popular, because I do think the proof is in the pudding, right? Like, I don't think it's not a coincidence that Rory looked as good as he did the first 2 days without that practice there. Because obviously we know that Rory typically plays well at the Masters there, but like that was just pure domination the first 2 days.
I agree. I think some guy, like obviously Rory knows he's in the Masters next year. The guys that finished in the top 12 are automatically in. The guys that are in because they've won other majors and they have exemptions, they already know they're in. There's only a really small handful of guys that are waiting to see if they qualify, have it be on the world golf ranking list. The amateurs are towards the end, but out of 100 people that are in the tournament, 80 of them have a good idea 2 months out that they're in. So, you're just waiting for that thing to come in the mail. And like I said, Kisner said, he's like, once you get it, he's like, because he made a couple of them. And he's like, I literally called the pro shop. He's like, literally, he's like, I call the pro shop. They're like, hey, Mr. Kisner. And he's like, I'm going to be there Thursday around noon. And they'll be like, okay, like, we'll let you out. Like, he said it's that simple. So, I think it's a lot of people kind of crying over spilled milk, if I'm being honest. Again, if you're the defending champion and you're over, you're preparing as much as you can, I'm not going to knock the guy and, have guys that are, and some guys had to play for money. Don't get me wrong. There's other guys that got in, by moving up the money list and moving up the world ranking list the last week or two. So, for those guys, if they're griping, I kind of get it, but at the same time, don't leave it to be something that happens so late. Play better. But I'm not going to knock Roy for it.
Fair enough. Anything else, Masters, we want to hit on?
No. Next major is May 16th, and it's in my backyard here. It's in Aronimink down in Delaware County. So all those guys will be here. I will be attending. Looking forward to it, and wait another whole year for the Masters. It's my favorite golf tournament by far.
Question though, because I didn't realize that he was this close to it. And I know we'll talk about it once we actually get to the tournament itself. There, Does Scotty complete the Grand Slam this year?
Does Scotty only need the PGA?
I thought he only needed the U.S. Open. I thought
he's won.
I think he won 3. Like, I think that 2024 year, I think he won 3 out of the 4, like, in the calendar year.
I gotta look this up right now.
All right, so he's got a win in Masters in 2024.
He's won that twice, I think,
in the Open in 2025.
Okay, so he has the U.S. Open then.
Yep.
U.S. Open, I believe, is at Shinnecock this year.
That is correct.
Which is that is a treacherous place, man. Not saying he can't do it. It's a course that will suit him in that you have to be able to, like, come Saturday and Sunday at Shinnecock, you shoot even par both days. You're moving up the leaderboard. Like moving. That is one of those courses when it dries out. It's diabolical. And I'm sure they'll let it dry out because they always do. It's a place where you got to grind and stay even keeled. And if you play like he played on Sunday and just rip off pars while everybody else is making bogeys, that's how you win those tournaments. So he'll be one of the favorites. We'll see where his game is, come that time of year. But Shinnecock, man. The course is such a wild card because it doesn't favor anybody. It doesn't. Like the Masters, like you can say what you want, but if you're a guy that predominantly plays a draw or can hit the ball to the moon and have it come down soft, like a Scheffler, Rory, Brooks, like those type of guys, it favors them. It just does. It's just because the way the greens are. If you can have the ball come down soft, you can do a lot of things there that other guys can't. Shinnecock doesn't care. You're gonna be hitting balls in the greens that are rock hard that, if you miss your target by a foot, it'll roll off the green. I'll say no, just because again, I think it's I think whoever plays well those 4 days will win it. I don't think form necessarily coming in is always a huge factor to open when it's at a course like that because the course is such an equalizer. It's so goddamn hard. It is. It is. It's brutal. And honest to be blunt as well though, he's got to drive the ball better. He's got to figure out his driver because in the U.S. Open, you're not getting away with hitting off pine straw and stuff like that, like you are at Augusta. You start hitting the ball in the rough at the U.S. Open, you're hitting the ball at a 2.5-inch rough, and you're going to struggle. So,
Yeah.
We'll see how he's playing by then. We'll talk about it, I'm sure, on the show the week of, but he'll definitely be one of the favorites. But I'll go with no. I'm just, if I had a gun to my head, him or the field, I'll take the field.
Fair enough.
I think I have a weird feeling somebody weird wins the U.S. Open this year. Don't ask me why, but I have a feeling it's not one of the big guys.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, ready to get into some prospects?
Prospects. This is almost in our wheelhouse of college football, but it's like dipping our toe in the pool. But we're going to talk a little draft here. We're not going to go necessarily big board. We're just going to talk about who we think some of the better prospects are, no matter where they go, both sides of the ball, just general discussion, stuff like that. We're gonna have some fun with it, and then we'll get into WWE, which is gonna be fun. So, what side of the ball you want to start on?
Let's start on defense.
Oh, it's like I knew you were gonna pick that. All right, well, I'll make this easy. Begrudgingly, I will say this because I've said it for a couple years. I think there is one guaranteed, no doubter, probably. I don't like saying crazy stuff, but I think there's one perennial Pro Bowler and probably Hall of Fame, guaranteed Hall of Fame player in this class, and that's Caleb Downs. I think he's for my money. I think he's the best player in the draft. I think he's the shortest thing. Watched the guy play for 3 years. The only game that I've ever seen him look, I don't know if vulnerable is the right word, but where he made some mistakes was when he was still at Bama against Michigan in the Rose Bowl. They got him a couple times in that game, but he's actually – I read an interview that he gave the other day, actually, and he said he learned so much from that game about things he had to change, and he changed all that stuff. Went to Ohio State, obviously, played under Knowles and then obviously Matt Patricia. And I think he's one of the best prospects I've seen in a long time. The kid is as solid as it gets, super athletic, super smart. He's disciplined, and I think if you end up drafting him, I think the most impressive part of it for me is he seems like he's super eager to learn and he's coachable and he knows he can get better. There's no ego there. There's no, I made it type crap with him. I think whoever takes him is getting an absolute star.
I agree. I mean, obviously, that's my guy. Buckeye. Like I don't think the defense runs the way that it does without Caleb Downs the last 2 years. And just talking about his pedigree. I mean, for 3 years in a row, you get coached by Saban, then you get coached by Jim Knowles, then you get coached by Matt Patricia. I think that one could argue as far as defensive minds go in college football, all three of them, even with Patricia being new to the college football landscape. All three of those guys belong firmly within your top 10 of, defensive minds in the sport there. And so the fact that he got to be coached by all three of them, who all run 3 different schemes there, and he looked absolutely incredible in all 3 of them. I think that says a lot about who he is, not only as a talent, but as a player and as a person as well, because Knowles' scheme is difficult to understand. Patricia's scheme is difficult to understand. It's coming from the NFL. Like, it was completely new to everybody. And Caleb Downs wasn't just the guy who was essentially tasked to, know his role in that be that. But I mean, he's your second essentially Caleb Downs is like a second green dot on the field, right? So you get your middle linebacker that gets the plays in, but Caleb Downs is organizing where everybody's at in the secondary. He's organizing where if guys are misaligned in front of him. So I definitely think Caleb is a special prospect, but I didn't want to just get kind of caught up on Caleb there. A couple other guys that I wanted to mention just from the safety side of things there. One would be Dylan Thieneman from Oregon. I do think he's a very good safety. I think him testing well at the combine definitely helps his draft status there as well. You go out and run a 4.37 with what you have on tape there already. I mean, I think Thieneman can definitely be special. And
So a
I do
lot of
actually
people linking him with the Eagles now to take Reed's spot, especially after the combine.
I think that this year will be interesting too because a lot of people don't think there's a big drop off from Thieneman to Downs, but to that I would say if you don't think there's that big of a drop off, I do think that positional because everything has to be proportional to like your actual draft position there. I think Caleb Downs can be as high as the top 5 pick in the draft, and I don't think that would be crazy for a team to pick him in the top 5. But if that's how you're thinking, though, if you're a team that needs a safety, it's like, all right, well, I'm at like 13, and Thieneman is still on the board here, or I'm at like 15, and Thieneman's on the board. Like, I got to think about considering him in that range there, because like I do think he's a very good player. The other safety I wanted to mention was Emmanuel McNeil-Warren from Toledo, and all of a sudden Toledo has become DBU, getting obviously Quinyon Mitchell in the league there with the Eagles, and they got 2 more guys that are probably going to get drafted this year as well. They got 2 corners between Avery Smith and I forget the other corner's name on top of my head right now, but they got 2 other corners that are going to be getting drafted there as well. So I think Toledo's done a great job of getting guys to the league, and Emmanuel McNeil-Warren is going to be a really solid player at the next level there as well. Just kind of talking about safeties, but before we go over to the offensive side of the ball, I think the other big position group on defense, I mean, we could talk about Sonny, but I think the bigger story is really the defensive line and how you view some of those edges.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I think Sonny's his own thing, and then I think you have Bailey and that whole group and what you value, what you're looking for, I guess how you project. I think it's going to get. I think it's going to be really interesting to see where those guys go and where they fall and who they how they fit with who takes them. I've seen a case for each of them to go higher than the other one. I really think it's going to come down to probably I think who interviews better and who I think the teams feel more comfortable with. I think it's a deep group this year because I think there's 2 or 3 guys that are absolutely going to be really good players to the next level. To your point, even with the safeties, I think this is a very deep draft defensively. Like I think you're getting guys in the 2nd or 3rd round that are probably very capable of playing a lot of meaningful NFL snaps next year, depending on where they go and what type of fit and scheme and they're going to walk into and stuff like that. But I think this is definitely going to be a defense. I think that the defensive players in this draft are going to overshadow the offensive players in this draft. I don't think it's relatively close either. But yeah, I don't know how you rank the 3 of them. There he is, Bahama Gene.
He said dinner was great. Miss you too, man. I'm sure you're poolside. I said you're poolside. You got a mojito in your hand. Bill said you got some drink with an umbrella in it right now.
He better. He's on a goddamn boat.
But I mean, I think for me, as far as like ranking the edge guys, I got Bane as my number 1 guy. Look, I'm tired of hearing all of the stuff with his arm length and that being a concern and things like that. Look at his tape. I mean, I think the thing with him is that he's gone up against guys who are going to be playing at the next level, and he was able to out leverage them. He was able to, win with power. He was able to win with speed. So I think a lot of the, concerns, especially about the arm length specifically, I think a lot of times people overanalyze the metrics and the some of those numbers that you see, with your shirt off or at a combine per se and things like that, as opposed to just watching the film. So Bane's my number one guy. My number two edge would ultimately be Arvell Reese. I think him becoming a true pass rusher, and learning moves and just learning the nuances of the position, I think will be beneficial, very beneficial for him. I think he has the strength to set an edge there. And I also think he's a great athlete where you have the versatility to use him. The one thing that I will say though about David Bailey is I'm not all in on him. A lot of people have him as potentially the number 2 overall pick. If I were to give you guys my top 5 edge players, David Bailey would actually not be one of them. Not because he doesn't have the talent, but for me, I I question his effort on film, and I also question the ways that he wins. Because when you look at that Texas Tech team, Lee Hunter being in the middle at as their nose tackle was absolutely monstrous as far as help goes for getting Bailey some of the numbers that he has. And then on the flip side of him, he had another edge that's going to be getting drafted in Romello, and I think that for me that plays a big time part. So I'm not as high on David Bailey. Do I think he can be a great pass rusher in spots? Absolutely. But I'm not taking a rotational edge as my number 2 overall pick or top 5 overall pick.
I think I like Bailey. But I don't necessarily disagree with anything you said. I think he's maybe one of the trickier ones to figure out of exactly how he's going to fit at the next level. And again, you got to see what team he goes to. I mean, he could go to a team that has, a great nose tackle, and it's, he gets right back in the same situation. I think he's a great athlete, though. I think he has good instincts
For sure.
the motor thing I think has been brought up, definitely in other forums, and I'm sure it's something he got questioned about, in his interviews. For my money, I'm with you in that I think Bane's a monster. I think he is just. I think he's all quit. I think he's so goddamn strong and explosive. If I had to take any of them, I would take Bane first. After that, I think it gets a little, not in reality, just in my mind, it gets a little convoluted. I'd probably give you a different answer depending on what day you ask me. But that group is going to get, that group's going to be under the microscope for sure this year, because there's so many, projected top, all those guys should go in the top 15. Or close to it. So it's going to be really interesting to see what the NFL teams value. Does Bailey go first? Does Bane goes first? The Ohio State guys, like, where do they go? It's going to be fascinating for sure.
It definitely is. And I mean, I think the other thing that I wanted to just kind of say too is that, our Mason Thomas is like my guy this draft class. He's an edge from Oklahoma who is probably a fringe first rounder. If he gets picked in the first round, it'll be late, or he'll be an early day 2 pick, an early second round pick there. But for me, I think if I'm looking at it like, I want a rotational edge there, because our Mason Thomas is more of a pass. Like, he's a natural pass rusher. He's not a guy who's going to, blow you away and stop in the run. But if I want a rotational pass rusher, I would look more to our Mason Thomas versus David Bailey because of the skill set itself there, and 2, I don't have to necessarily question the motor. So that was definitely one name that I wanted to throw out there. And then my sleeper on the defensive side of the ball, going back to the safeties, Jacoby Thomas from Miami. He's one of those guys where he wasn't the heralded guy. Like, obviously we heard about Bane, we heard about Mesidor. We heard about Deontay, from the cornerback spot there, but Jacoby Thomas is one of those guys that can absolutely play football, and you could tell he loves playing football. He'll come down, he'll make the big hits, he'll get the interceptions, and he always brings the energy. I love seeing that kid play, and I think a team is going to get a stud in him on day 3 because I think he's going to start as a rookie, even as a day 3 pick.
It's possible, and like I said, I think this is a very, very deep defensive draft. I think you're going to have guys on day 3 that are going to win starting spots on teams. I really do. There's a lot of guys that are, 3rd or 4th year juniors. You got some 5th year seniors, guys that have gotten a lot of experience, a lot of playing time, and quite frankly, learned a lot in school before they've come out. They're not going to be the, hey, like 20, 21-year-olds that had one good season and kind of need to learn. Some of these guys are coming out definitely more seasoned and more familiar with NFL schemes, and are probably going to pick stuff up at camp a lot faster than other people. So I think it's going to be deep. I think you'll definitely have some sleepers, especially late day 2, early day 3 that hit. And, you can hope it's your team. But let's switch to offense. We think Mendoza's going number 1, so let's skip over that. It's a mistake, but we'll get into that more when we do it
next week.
I think this is a pretty deep wide receiver class.
For sure.
Lineman, I think it's a lot of. I think there's 1 or 2 guys that are pretty, I would say, sure things. Not a deep running back class by any means.
Got a fellow Wolverine checking in. Wolverine Gage. What's up, man?
That guy. Love that, though. I need more Wolverine people on here. It's got to be one of the 19 fan clubs that Gene's probably in. But needs to say, what's up? Come back. A lot of Wolverine talk. Tune to Coast to Coast on Saturdays. Anyway, where do you think Jeremiah Love actually goes? I mean,
Tennessee.
you think he's got, what are they, 4 or 5, whatever they
4.
are? 4.
They're 4. I don't think he goes past 4. I think if he goes,
first time I saw that today. It's the first time I've seen him going that high.
I've been mocking it. I've been mocking it that way for the last, honestly, since the combine. So the last 2 months, I've been mocking it that way. I got Jeremiah Love going 4. I don't see him getting past that slot there because as far as playmakers on offense go, I do like the receivers. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I like Tate. I like Lemon. I like Tyson. I like Ted Hurst. So I like a lot of the receivers there. But I think if you're looking at playmakers, and we talked about Caleb Downs being the best defensive player, I think on the offensive side of the ball, you got to look at Jeremiah Love as the best offensive guy.
I don't disagree. I love him. And again, I'm not going to say he's the biggest sure thing, but I think he's, to your point, I think he's the best offensive player in the draft.
Yeah.
I think there's things he has that he's going to have to work on a little bit to be an every down back in the NFL, but just raw talent and skill wise, playmaking, and he's physical. I mean, the kid's a great athlete. I love him. Tennessee, I just feel like I just never know what they're doing.
But what do they need though? Like, if you're
like a lot, that's what I mean. Like, you really want to go RB1 at your 4th pick, like with other stuff that you need.
They need to address the offensive side of the ball. You went out and got a left tackle last year, and JC Latham, and I don't necessarily love him as a player, but he is your left tackle of the future, essentially, at least for the next year or 2, because he spent a 1st-round pick on him. And if you look at that Titans offense, I mean, you brought in Brian Dable. I think last year the defense as a whole, while they didn't have a lot of success as a team, I think the defense was more of the bright spot per se there.
Absolutely. They were just on the field all the goddamn game.
And so I think if that being the case, like, what would you want to give Cam Ward? I would say you want to give him a true number 1 receiver, but at 4, Is that too rich for Tate? Is that too rich for Tyson? Is that too rich for Lemon? In my opinion, I think slightly. And I of course I love Tate, like Ohio State receiver. I like Lemon. Like I think he was very deserving of the
I'm
Blitman
not
call.
taking a wide receiver at 4.
So I'm
Not
not taking a
this
receiver
draft.
at 4. And at that point, it's like, all right, am I taking a right tackle or am I taking Jeremiah Love? And for me, I think that guy has to be Jeremiah Love.
I won't hate it. Like I said, I mean, I feel like we're just getting back to like the Genty thing last year, where he's like, it always comes back to kind of what you were touching on before. It comes back to 3 years from now, you're gonna look back and say, was the value right with that pick? And with him, the answer is probably going to be yes, because he's that good, and we'll see how he continues to how they continue to build that team around Cam Ward and presumably him. But you got to run a game in the NFL to succeed. We see that way too often. And he can definitely be that guy. I mean, I think he's a horse. I think he's the capability to be an every down back. He's got to work on pass pro a little bit, and he's got to be a better receiver out of the backfield. But they'll work on all that stuff. But he's definitely a tackle guy, though. And if he gets out in the open, he's a menace. So it'll definitely be interesting to see if that's where he falls. You brought up the wide receivers. I think everybody agrees Tate's probably the top guy. I know you like Lemon. I like Lemon too. And I'm a little higher on, I think, other guys than maybe you are, depending on fit and where they go. Like, I think Concepcion has a chance to be a really good wide receiver if he goes to a spot where they're going to use him correctly and keep him outside with his length and his speed. Besides those three, who are you looking at?
I mean, Denzel Boston is one. I mean, he has the size and he has the skill set to be successful there. From Washington, I think another one I mentioned earlier, Ted Hurst is a big one. I think when you're looking at second and third round, picks there. I just did my, real recognized real breakdown of him, and he reminds me so much of George Pickens, and just seeing the way that he ate down at the Senior Bowl, and seeing him run a 4.4 at 6'4", and just him being on film, just being a physical specimen. I think he definitely can bring a ton of value. So for me, I think outside of those top 3 guys and Tate, Tyson, and Lemon, I think you can have a ton of success. Like if I was a team and I didn't have the opportunity to pick one of those 3, I'm looking at probably the second round as far as receivers go, because Concepcion will probably be going there. But I do think, does he have the potential to be good? Absolutely. But I do think, to your point, fit will matter a ton with him.
You will.
Zachariah Branch is another one who I think has the potential to be really good at the next level, but fit will matter a ton for him. And so when I just look at these guys, like fit is so important. There's only probably like maybe 5 or 6 guys as a whole that I don't think fit will necessarily matter. And I think the big thing with Tyson is, how concerned are you with his injury history, right? So I think if he had a fully healthy, medical sheet there, I think there's a real opportunity that we're talking about him as receiver 1 as opposed to Carnell Tate. But you have to play those injuries into account there, especially when you're a team picking in the top 10, and you need a receiver 1 that's going to be out there and reliable for you on the field.
So I've seen this question posed a lot because obviously you factor in the edge guys. We know QB is going to go number 1. Love is probably going to go somewhere in there. He's going to take up a spot. Does a wide receiver go in the top 10?
Yes. I don't think you get, unless you have 3 trades, I don't think the Browns, Commanders, and Saints are all in a position to pass on one of their receivers if they're on the board.
I don't disagree with that. I've seen obviously Cleveland and or Washington linked with Caleb a lot, depending on where he finally comes off the board. So he's another spot that I think is gone. There's going to be a lineman or 2 taken. That's why I think it's interesting. The odds on it are actually pretty close. Because I think obviously you can't tell if there's going to be trades or not yet. But if people start trading back up into the top 10 for other things, it gets interesting. So
And I think the other thing too is that although I don't think the Chiefs go receiver, we're not used to them being in a position, picking ninth overall. And so maybe they decide to go the receiver route and say, hey, let's get Pat a legitimate number one receiver here. We got Rashee Rice, who is very good. But I mean, if we're being honest, like his role is going to be as a number two receiver.
He's got to stay out of trouble.
I mean, yeah, that too. But like I think receiver could potentially be in play for them as well. So like I just think there's too many teams that could use a receiver down there with the back half of the top 10 for that position to not be picked. And I also think even in the top 5, like the Giants are a team that could take a receiver. The Cardinals are a team that could take a receiver. Maybe not at 3, but if they trade back, like they could take a receiver. So I mean, I think, there's too many teams that need a receiver that are picking in that area.
I think there's any chance Kansas City takes Sadiq.
I don't see that happening.
I don't, but it would make sense to me. I mean, I think
not at 9. Maybe if they trade back, maybe, but at 9, I just don't see it.
I think you really finally saw the drop off with Kelsey last year. I think this upcoming year will be his last year, no matter what. And that's obviously not only a big hole to fill, but it's a big role in that offense, the way they used him. So I've seen a lot of people, to your point, they think if they trade back 2 or 3 spots, they might take him if they think they can guarantee he's on the board. But that would be a deadly pairing as well. I don't think they'd take him at 9 either, though. I agree with you. But be very curious to see what they do. They need a lot of offensive line help. I know we thought there was a chance Jeremiah Love went there, and then they went out and signed Walker, obviously.
Yeah.
Be very curious to see which aspect they decide to help Mahomes. Have it be offensive line, or are they going to try to find somebody to pair with Rashee Rice? So I don't know. Anything else? Anybody else you want to talk about?
No, I mean the linemen are going to be interesting. A lot of discussions about Spencer Fano is the top one. Francis Malinoga from Miami is another top one. But the consensus is that none of these guys are left tackles. The only like bona fide left tackle that is out there is Monroe Freeling from Georgia. I think he's a raw talent. And so I get that, left tackle is important, but I wouldn't reach for Monroe too early there because I do think there's an opportunity for, he might even have to sit all of that first year in the league because he's more of a developmental piece. So I'm curious to see where teams factor that in as opposed to going to the more experienced or more polished, in my opinion, because like Spencer Fano to me is the best offensive lineman in this class. Francis is probably my number 2. Caleb Lomu is absolutely incredible, especially knowing that he played left tackle on Utah's offensive line. Like Spencer Fano was also there, but he was the one that was holding down the left tackle spot.
Yep.
And I get it. You don't know if he's going to be a left tackle in the league, but like for me, I'd much rather go with those established guys that played the position. And even if they're not necessarily left tackle.
I mean, worst case, he's still a lockdown right tackle. So I mean, you can't
really
even
you go worse than that. I get it. Guards aren't the sexy position. You're normally not taking guards in the first round, especially early. But worst case scenario, if I think the guy could potentially be my starting left tackle of the future, and instead he turns into a Pro Bowl caliber guard, I'm not going to look back and say, damn, why do we take that guy in the first round? We should have waited to the second to get him. Like,
if you get Zach,
the thought process.
If you get Zach Martin instead, you're not pissed.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm curious to see where these teams kind of view things with that because all of the top tackles are looking to be converted to a guard at the next level. So curious to see where, the league stands with that and, where some of those guys fall. But I do think this is a talented offensive line group as well.
And again, I don't think there is like you don't have the Joe Alt, Penei Sewell type name in this draft, but I think the position group as a whole is very deep. Like
Yeah.
I think the distance from the first guy to the fifth guy is not a huge drop,
Nope.
where other years there is. So um, that's going to wrap us up for NFL. Draft is draft next week,
Next Thursday.
next Thursday. So it will be NFL heavy show next week, along with the NBA. So um, tune back in for that. I'm assuming we're going to mock it like we always do. So
Absolutely.
it'll be a lot of fun. Um, Wolverine Gage, where are you from? Are you from Ann Arbor? It's gonna be my new best friend, Control.
That's fine.
But first time hey, listen, we're glad you're here. I hope you come back next Wednesday. If you're a big Wolverine fan, obviously, come back around August. Me, Cottrell, and our other buddy do our college show every Saturday morning. So you'll probably like that a lot more. But let's get into the fun topic of the night. Granddaddy of them all, WrestleMania is this weekend. The only time we really ever talk about wrestling on this show. But I guess we'll just go. Do you have graphics for this by any chance?
No, I don't have anything for this.
Worse.
What? I got you. Don't you worry. I can grab it for you. What do you want to see?
Especially the graphics. There's a graphic for Saturday night and Sunday night.
Say no more. I don't even have the graphic, but
that's why you get paid the big bucks.
We got you. We're gonna just share our screen. We're gonna go here, throw this up here. Bang.
Damn, I've never heard of Joey before. What the hell is that?
Let me go. Man, plus we're gonna get this thing going here. Night one.
All right. Ugh.
I don't know how you want to necessarily do this. I know we're at 2 hours here. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, we're not going to spend a ton of time on this, but we'll touch on every one of them because I think some of them are very, very predictable. Which is, if I had a gripe about this WrestleMania in general, I think it's very kind of easy to see where certain things are going to go, and I don't like that. All right, so what's first Saturday?
So you got the Vision, Night Show Speed versus the Usos and LA Knight.
There's no way the Usos and LA Knight are losing this match. I think there will be a lot of cool spots in this match. It's definitely a great match to kind of lead off with. There'll be people flying around. I Show Speed will probably get thrown into the crowd or something. This match will be fun. Definitely a good one to open the show and obviously kind of get the energy up. I'd be shocked if LA Knight and Usos do not win.
I agree with you, but I think the most predictable fight on this or match, I should say, on this night is going to be the next one, and that's Jacob Fatu versus Drew McIntyre.
See, I agree with you until the report that came out today. Everybody assumed that. The rumor was Drew dropped the belt to Cody because they didn't want him. He was leaving right after WrestleMania to go film so-and-so, some show or movie. Apparently, that's not the case now. I still think Fatu wins. I think it's going to be a great match. There will be a lot of probably cool spots. There's going to be that's going to be a physical match. Let's just leave it at that. There's going to be some crazy shit in that match.
For sure.
And then I know those two matches they're going to be free on ESPN, I think, normal ESPN before it flips over to the pay-per-view part of it. So it is I think Fatu wins still though, but I think the first two matches are the right matches to put on to really kind of get the card going.
For sure. And, I just want to kind of, I guess, move through things here. Who you got? Stephanie versus Liv.
If there's a swerve, I think it might be here. And then I think maybe Steph retains somehow, but I think it's going to be Liv.
Do you think this is a interference kind of thing?
I mean, Dom's going to be there, so I mean, we'll see how that goes. Maybe it goes wrong this time. That's what I mean. Like I think there's, I think there's a chance um, that this doesn't go the way people think it is, but because Liv, I mean, to her credit, I mean, she's great and she's over. Um, she's had her fair share of WrestleMania moments already, so I don't think they owe her anything.
Yeah.
Um, but uh, having a bona fide heel champion, I think, is something that they can't pass up on. So I think Liv wins.
Okay. Well, I mean, if that's the way you think about that match, then I'm assuming you got Becky Lynch in the match for the IC belt.
this this feud, this is probably top five great for me. This feud should have been so much better than it was.
It
But
started off great.
it started off great, but AJ just hasn't been on TV, so it's like to have the two of them kind of going at it every week would have really built for this. I don't think AJ is still in the position where she wants to come back full time. Um, I I I think Becky's going to win.
All right. And I have Becky winning this match as well. I think Stephanie retains though, based on the just going off the last match there, but I do have Becky winning the belt here. Next one, you got the women's tag team match. The um Nia Jax and Lash Legend versus Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss. You got Bailey,
I'm gonna go
Valkyria,
with.
and the Bella Twins.
I don't know if the Bellas are actually going to be in it because apparently Nikki is not medically clear yet to wrestle.
Oh,
Um,
brother.
I know it's a mess. I think Bailey wins regardless. I think the last couple years that you know the stuff that she's gone through, I think they're going to give her a moment. I think this is probably where I'm completely disappointed in the way they've handled Alexa and Charlotte because I think they got over way more than WWE thought they were going to, and they just put them together because they had nothing to do for either one of them, and
Hmm.
now they're way over. They didn't capitalize on it, and they're going to have to free both of them up because they're going to need them for singles competition. So this is probably the beginning of the end of that tag team. They're not going to win. So I'm going with Bailey.
See, you say this is the beginning of the end for them, but I, I think with where the women are at right now, just knowing how, like, just like the landscape of everything, knowing that Bianca's going to be coming back at some point. Maybe she comes back at WrestleMania and gets into the Jade Cargill and Rhea Ripley match. Like maybe that's something we see her pop back up, but I don't know, man. Something is telling me that Charlotte and Alexa got an opportunity to win the
I
belt
hope they
here.
do. Alexa's my favorite. I know they really want to do Alexa and Liv. That's been like a thing for a while. Maybe they hold off till SummerSlam to do it. But um, having Charlotte kind of tied up is kind of nuts too, and to some degree.
It is for sure. The only thing though that I would be okay with is if this is like another, what was it, they had an issue like Charlotte and Alexa had, like, mistake before where
Yeah,
Charlotte had did something, cost Alexa a match, or maybe it was at the Rumble. They had some sort of issue in the past there. I would only be okay if they don't win, if like it sparks some sort of feud between them. Not necessarily saying we get a match Charlotte versus Alexa at least right now, but like just long-term storytelling kind of thing. That I'd be okay with that.
no, and that's probably where you go. I mean, they'll probably dissolve eventually, and then they'll probably wrestle each other, and then they're gonna put one on SmackDown. They're gonna put one on Raw. They'll probably put Alexa back on Raw. Charlotte will stay on SmackDown, and then that's exactly probably the way we go. So, um, I hope I'm wrong. I would love to see them win. I think it'd be a lot of fun if they win, because I think the meltdown, to your point of the long term storytelling, the meltdown and the dissolving of it, if they have the belts, one of them costs the other one the tag team belts. That's more fun for the
Mhm.
storyline. I just don't know if they're going to do it.
For sure. And then the last two matches here, again, I don't want to keep people too long here, but Seth Rollins versus Gunther. Who you got?
I actually think Gunther wins. I think Seth's in the same boat. I think Seth has gotten so many huge moments already. I think they want to solidify Gunther. Wouldn't. I don't think. I don't. I could see him tapping out. I don't think they put him over with a pin, but um, I think they mishandled this as well. Like this should have been a nice 2-month build and not a 3-week build.
Well, the
That
problem is you know they wanted to put probably Breaker here.
Yeah, that's what it was supposed to be.
So they just kind of got, I don't want to say lazy, but
There's out of options. There's so many people that are hurt right now.
For sure. And then the title match. I think we're going to disagree here, Bill. I think we're going to disagree.
God. If Cody Rhodes wins this match, I'm gonna be furious.
Okay. You're on the okay. I thought you would be picking Cody.
No, I'm actually a huge Randy guy, believe it or not.
Yeah, me too.
He is prime Randy right now. When Randy is the psycho bad guy, there's nothing better. There's nothing better. I think he has to win. I think this can go probably back towards SummerSlam. I think this is going to help them make Cody's character have a little bit more of an edge to it.
For sure.
Not just the pure gleaming baby face type thing. So,
I don't know if you saw, but on McAfee's show, they had a video of Cody coming in and smashing the picture of them and just taking the belt back. So I kind of think we're gonna get. I don't necessarily think it's gonna go full on heel for Cody, but I do think we're going over. Cody's going over to the dark. He's stepping his foot on the dark side a little bit.
Agreed, and I think that's good for him because I think the Golden Boy thing has run its course.
For sure.
And he's not going to be a heel. He's still going to be a face. It's just going to be a different version of it.
All right, let's go through this. We'll go through night 2 a little bit quicker here because I don't think, as a whole, I think night 1 is better than night 2. I don't know if you agree with me or not there, but first match, this is a monstrous match to kick it off. Oba Femi versus Brock Lesnar. I think this is going to be worth the price of admission.
I agree. This is gonna be on ESPN as well. This is gonna be free. So again, this is them kicking off night 2 the right way.
I got Oba winning here. I
did too.
They're not going to do it. They're not going to let Brock win this match. Brock's going to put Oba over, and we're going to be talking about it next week about how, because Brock in reality, as much of as an asshole that Brock plays, on TV. Brock's always in the business of trying to put people over. He's been trying to do it for, really the last, I'd say 7-8 years, since he's been back from his UFC stint. So this is the perfect opportunity here. And I truly think, obviously, Oba is still going to be a star regardless of what happens in this match. But if a Brock win, in my mind, is just burying Oba for no reason.
I don't think you're burying him. The only reason I will say it is I'll say this. I think a lot of the reports are coming out that Brock is going to work steady until SummerSlam. So if that is the case, I would agree with you that if this is a normal WrestleMania thing where he wrestles, wins, and then disappears for 3 months, that buries Obi. I don't think he's leaving. I'm not saying he's going to win. I would love to see Femi go over. But that puts they have to have a plan in place for him then, because that puts him in the stratosphere of Roman and Seth and all those guys. That's automatically where you're putting him if he beats Brock Lesnar in WrestleMania.
Well, I think you go when Braun gets back. I know they want to go the side of having him and Seth and Gunther and all those guys. I think Oba and Braun is going to be the way to go. You find a way to make those storylines connect there.
I don't disagree. I think you're going to get Braun Seth first, but my point being, even if Lesnar wins this, I don't think it's the end of the story. So again, I could see them wrestle again. I could see Obi going over at SummerSlam. My point is, I think he's protected either way. And I think you bring up a good point that most people don't realize of how, again, how giving and how professional Brock really is. There's all the stories about him like telling people like in the ring to do little things that they're not doing, and to make it look more real, or he's definitely like a student of the business, like he really is. Um, I think I don't think no matter what happens, I don't think Obi doesn't come out looking good after Sunday night. I hope he wins. I think that's the way we go. Um, I just won't be shocked if Brock wins.
Fair enough. And then 6-pack ladder match for the IC belt. Who you got taking it?
There's a lot of weird Mysterio stuff to do with this. I think Penta should retain, if I'm being honest, but um, much like the other match on Saturday night to start, there's crazy stuff's going to happen in this match. You got way too many little guys that love to flip around in this match that are going to be jumping off ladders and everything else. This will be a very exciting match for sure. I don't know how much of the storytelling is going to be great, but the spots and the pure visuals of it will be a lot of fun. I'll go with Penta to retain, but I wouldn't be surprised if Ray wins for some reason.
I wouldn't be surprised if Ray won either, because a part of me, I was always of the mindset that Dominic shouldn't have dropped the belt the way that he did. So a part of me feels like if Ray wins, then we're gonna get back to somehow a Ray and Dominic feud here for the IC belt. But for me though, I think Javon Evans is gonna win it though. I do think with him becoming like this rising star, I ultimately think that they're going to just kind of test the waters with it and kind of see where he's at right now. What does he look like as a champion and things like that? So I think this is probably the one match where it feels like I truly don't know what's going to happen, because I
agree
think
with that.
a sense of like 3 or 4 of these guys winning. But for me though, I think just how mine's kind of playing through it, I think Javon Evans is the one that I'm stuck on right now. Next match, you got Jade Cargill going up against Rhea Ripley for the women's championship here. I don't know your thoughts on it.
It has to be Rhea.
Rhea is who I got taking it, and I kind of alluded to it earlier. I kind of think this is where we get a Bianca Belair spot. I think this is where she makes her return, even if she's not fully cleared. I think that's where you go with Jade, and we talk about it all the time on the show about how Jade really doesn't have it on the mic. I think when you have a presence like Bianca Belair, like it'll overshadow a lot of Jade's.
She's been missed dearly for sure. And and same thing, she got hurt, Liv got hurt. And that changed a lot of plans for a lot of things within the women's division. So I would love to get back to Rhea, Bianca. I think Jade eventually will get there. I think she just needs more seasoning. She's got to get a little bit more fluid in the ring, and she's definitely going to get better on the mic.
For sure. So you got Rhea winning here?
Yeah.
Sami Zayn versus Trick for the US belt.
I think this is Trick's. I think this is Trick's moment. I've said it before. I think Sammy's a great character. Sammy's a great character when he's the underdog and when he's chasing. I don't think Sammy's a good. I don't think Sammy's a good character when he has the belt. I don't. He just definitely has that underdog Daniel Bryan thing that the fans love. They've been pushing Trick for a while. I think this is definitely. I think you get the whole, Trick wins, 2 baby faces, and then they shake hands in the middle of the ring. I think it's be kind of one of those cool moments. But I think Trick finally gets his moment to shine on the main roster.
So obviously Trick is the face, but like he's like one of those guys that we talked about Cody kind of dipping his toe in the on the dark side. Like Trick is also one of those guys like. He definitely toes the line there, but I just think Trick is so over right now. Honestly, this is overdue. Like, if honestly they could have
Mhm.
had Trick in the spot, last year on a card. Not saying necessarily for a belt, but like Trick has been overdue for a belt, being placed on him. Like, he has the persona, he has the fan backing, he is so over right now. I think they have to put Trick over here, put the belt on him, and ultimately see what he can be there, because I truly think that with Trick, like, sky's the limit for him. Like, obviously he's not one of the big time power guys like Oba or Braun and things like that. But as far as just persona, he has the mic skills. Obviously he can wrestle. I think this would be a good run for him to really see what he can do with the US belt. Last two matches here, we got the Demon, Finn Balor, going up against Dominic Mysterio. I almost feel like this is one of those matches where I already know what's going to happen too. Because you bring back out the Demon and you let us know he's going to be the Demon. There's no way you can waste that on a loss, right?
So the whole thing was like Finn got the push, and then Finn kept talking about like how like he wants to use the demon more, but like he wants it to be more like organic. Like he doesn't want it to be announced. So what does WWE do? Lo and behold, he starts getting pushed. And then like this is like common knowledge. He's coming out Sunday night like this. Um, Part of me thinks this is the swerve of the whole weekend. Like part of me thinks either Ray comes out and saves Dom, or uh, something weird happens to this match. Part of me thinks you can't have Finn lose again as a demon, because at that point, like I just don't think it's like. I think you're killing it. I think you're absolutely burying the character. Um, I think we all thought this match was going to be for the IC belt when it happened, and then obviously Dominic dropped that for no reason. So like this match had so much more lore 2 months ago when they started obviously making it pretty known this is where we were going. So for it just to be a normal match, and I guess the catch of it is you're getting a demon, you'll get the entrance, you'll get all that stuff. Finn's my guy, has been for a long time. I feel like something weird has to happen in this match, and I don't know what it is. I just find it very hard to believe that it's just going to be a straightforward Finn goes out and wins, pins Dom. I can't imagine that's where we're going, especially that late in the show. Um, Something's got to happen. So I don't know who's getting screwed. Maybe Ray comes out and screws over Dom. I don't know, and maybe that's how you start that feud. To your point, um, but something has to happen at the end of that match.
I agree. I just I don't see Finn losing as the demon again. Like, because to your point, like, why are we announcing it? Because I think it's one thing if you don't announce it, because then you get the pop of the demon, but if you lose, it's like, oh, like that was a great match. Like, I was still so surprised, blah blah blah. But like with you announcing it beforehand, it's like, all right, like I'm looking forward to it. He has to win because he brought it out for this WrestleMania match there. But last one here, you got, the big one for the belt, Roman Reigns versus CM Punk. You talk about good lead up and, some of the other ones not having the best lead up. The CM Punk Roman Reigns, story has been absolutely incredible from start to finish here. I'm assuming we're on the same accord. We got Roman taking the belt here, but um, I guess is there any situation where you think CM Punk can retain?
Um, yeah, I mean there is. Yeah, I mean, listen, he's the thing he said forever is he's never made main event at WrestleMania, and he's never had his moment per se. Um, that would be his moment. There's a lot of people that think he's going to win, and Roman's going to kind of go back and kind of like do like kind of do like the bloodline thing again. But I think this is one of those ones too where I think it's something weird could happen because I think it makes too much sense for Roman to win.
Yeah,
And you're not going to hurt CM if he loses. Neither one of these guys are going to hurt if they lose. But um, I think storytelling wise and kind of really resetting everything and setting the direction towards SummerSlam and mixing things up and what they want to do, especially with Seth back now. You know, I think we're eventually going to see the trilogy of that between Roman and Seth. Seth and CM have a ton of unfinished business as well.
for
Um,
sure.
I think Roman goes over. I think he wins, um, and I think it gets real interesting.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, Roman ultimately will go over and will get the belt there, but I'm curious to see who we get the appearances from in this fight because, you have to think that, I mean, the bloodline's all there, right? Batu's got to fight this WrestleMania. Both of the Usos are fighting this WrestleMania. So like, bloodline is going to be very present. Seth's obviously going to be there. He's been a part of, this. Becky and AJ, obviously they have a match already, but like they've been a big part of this. So um
I don't think we get like the run in fest that we got like at WrestleMania
there we go.
40,
Yeah,
but like I could see Seth come in and everybody just assume that like he's going to hit Roman and hit CM Punk and rolls out of the ring. Like I could see that. So and everybody just be like, "Oh wow."
the other thing too that we can get is, again, we talked about him a little bit earlier, but like Ron Breaker could make a lot of sense here as well because of the, Paul Heyman angle. So like I think their options are very endless with this. I'm just curious to see what direction they go. But how everything has gone so far, I would like if we don't get the payoff of everything, coming together, that's gonna be so disappointing. Like if we just get, just kind of a straightforward match and we just don't get that payoff at the end there. Because it's not like I'm asking for them to bring out Rock. Like I'm not asking for anything crazy. Like I just need something that makes sense moving forward here based on the story that you gave us already.
I agree. Um, I mean, remember, Rock will probably be there.
Yeah, I
John,
mean it's in
John,
Vegas.
John Cena's hosting. I'm just saying. I mean, there's a lot that could go. There's a lot that could go sideways.
For sure. And definitely looking forward to it. But I'm glad we were able to, have a little WrestleMania discussion here.
Sad Gene missed it because I mean Gene's going to be there, so I mean
Yeah,
lucky him. He's going to see it all in person. But
for sure.
um, that is it. That's what. What you have you got to be kidding me? Because I don't.
We know you don't, but I do have one because I knew
All
I
right,
had
go
to
ahead.
keep it. I had to keep it alive here. So there was a report that came out from Ali Connolly about Ruben Bain and how he was cited for careless driving after a March 2024 crash in Miami that left a passenger in a coma. Passenger ultimately died 3 months later, and he reported that NFL teams are aware and investigating. My issue with that report is not the fact that it got published or that this is kind of coming to light now. My issue with it is that it he presented it as if this was some sort of gotcha, kind of article. And the reality is that NFL teams already knew this. NFL teams aren't currently investigating. The fact that you said NFL teams are aware and investigating makes it seem to believe that like they just found out about this. All the teams that are interested in Ruben Bain absolutely already were aware of this. The Lions GM actually came out and basically said, "Hey, yeah, this is something that we knew about, and it's not really a concern for us. If we're in a position to potentially draft him." So for you to kind of just throw it out there, and then I think the worst part about it is that he actually interviewed their family or requested a comment from the victims' family in this situation, and they basically said, "Hey, we don't want to be in the spotlight at all. Like, we don't want any news on us. It was a very tragic situation, but like, we hold no ill will towards Bain in the situation, and we wish him the best of luck in his NFL career." So I get that, you're a journalist, you're supposed to report on stories and things like that, but the way that this story was crafted and released there really made it feel more so like a hit piece. And then also that another comment that he threw out there in the article that I just absolutely hated was that he quoted someone saying that this could be Laramie Tunsil all over again. And obviously we know the story about Tunsil falling during draft night, but Ollie Connolly, the way you went about reporting this story and really putting a hit out on Ruben Bain a week before the draft ultimately happening here, especially after the family's wishes were to just let it be left alone and they don't have any ill will towards them. This week for me, Ollie Connolly.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
Trash journalism.
Yeah.
Just a little update before we close out here. Sixers are up by 8 with about 2.5 minutes to go in the third quarter. So
nice.
See what happens coming down the stretch. But that is it. That's all we got. Wolverine Gauge. Thanks for joining. Come back next week. And every week after. Don't mind Gene. But you've any final thoughts?
I got one. So tomorrow will mark 4 years that me and my wife Audie have been married. So want to wish her a happy early anniversary.
Give her a medal.
Be 4 years married, 12 years together. So I feel like I say it like once a year on the show, usually for a birthday or something that pops up, all the stuff behind the scenes, the support. Because I'm sure it's not, because I don't know what's happening upstairs right now. We got a 5-month-old that just doesn't like to sleep all of a sudden and has been fighting a little cold there. So I don't know if she's up there going to war. I don't know if she's asleep now because she finally got him to go down. Then she's just trying to steal some sleep. But appreciate everything. And, like I said, so much stuff that happens behind the scenes that she helps with to allow me to, be on the show and do my podcast and then go to events and stuff like that. So wanted to wish her a happy anniversary before we end the show.
Well, that is very nice of you. I think Liz is asleep behind me already. She's ready for this to be over.
Anything from you?
No, I'm not. I'm only allowed to wish her a happy birthday. I'm never allowed to say how old she is. I get in trouble. It's not her birthday yet, so. But I got nothing. So that is it for this week. We'll be back next week. Gene will be back from his trip. He'll be probably tired and jet lagged from all his WrestleMania stuff. But everybody tuned in. As always, thank you. Like, share, all that good stuff. Watch all the other shows on the network. Sure Gene's Wire to Wire breaks will be back and booming as soon as he gets back next week as well. So that's about it. That's all we got for you this week.
All right. Well, see you guys next week then.